Hi Max, it's me Hans, and I'm so proud to have you now here live with me. It's a very great day for me, and thank you so much that you have time to join this. How are you doing, man?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, good.
Wow, no, it's
Good to be here.
yeah, excellent. I had yeah, almost 24 hours. There's maybe 15 or 20 minutes missing. Then I will be online for 24 hours with just a break with 2 hours where nobody was there. So, but I'm full of energy. Let's do it. Let's talk about what's happening in the world. I don't know. The people who are watching this, maybe they still don't know you. So I would say, introduce yourself. Tell the people what are you doing, uh, what's your name, and blah 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 blah. And then let's go to the point here.
Okay, yeah. I'm Mr. Max Bliss, and I've become a full-time activist trying to raise awareness to chemtrails and various issues that link to chemtrails. It's taken over my life. I've had to put my life on hold, and I've got a lot to do as well. I've got property and renovation properties, and they're practically falling down, and I basically try to ignore them because what I'm doing, raising awareness, seems to be more important. And basically, I guess I've been going around talking at conferences. I've done 10 this year, and I've painted up my van. I think quite possibly I was the first one to do this. I've just covered my van in lots of different bits of information and different ways to raise awareness to chemtrails and to geoengineering. And I spend a lot of time on the internet doing all I can to raise awareness, and spend a lot of time researching information to find verifiable facts. And there's a lot of facts to find if you're prepared to spend the time searching, especially to do with geoengineering and military documents, and the use of weather control, weather modification. And I guess it's just a journey. And I am no specialist or anything. I'm an ordinary, everyday man. I'm a bricklayer, which is a mason, I think, that we say, but not like a Freemason. So I work outside all the time, and I'm used to the weather. I also did, in my younger days, had a couple of years in the British Army, and I learned a lot about propaganda and the way the establishment works, which I think gave me a good grounding to give me an understanding on how to research information. And I guess at the end of the day, something like this, we all get an awakening. And once you learn enough information, you become convinced it's real. And I did rainwater analysis to see what the content of the metals of the rain was, and I found that it was excessively high amounts of aluminium, barium, strontium, and all the ingredients that we're told might be in the geoengineering, in the patent, the Wellsback patent, what they're using in geoengineering for solar radiation management, that they're all present in excessively high amounts. So with confirmation like that, I really sort of pushed myself to finding out as much as I can and sharing the information. And of course, I use my YouTube channel, Mr. Max Bliss, and that's got quite a lot of people. It's caught their attention. So I guess that's it in a nutshell. That's the situation that I'm arrived at today. Is I seem to be someone who's willing to do the research and share the information and put myself out there, make myself a target for certain groups, and basically, you know, I know that our governments are actually working for the oligarchy, for the extremely obscenely rich people, and they don't give a damn about we the people whatsoever. And when you come to that conclusion, you realise we're in a secret war, and you can't ignore it anymore. You can't sort of be sidetracked. You just basically have to do everything possible you can. And fortunately, the last year and a half, 2 years, I've seen a lot of progress, and a lot more people are waking up, and I feel very confident, actually, that the governments will not be able to carry on deceiving us for much longer, because too many people are waking up. So I feel confident, and it drives me on. And we have to wait and see. I think we're getting somewhere, and I think that more information comes to me every day, and I share that as quickly as I can. And I know other people use that information, and you know, it's great. The world is connecting, and we are getting somewhere. And it's getting increasingly hard for the governments to deny what's going on. And also, I think that their program has increased. They've moved to different phases in their program, and it's becoming more obvious. And as we've been doing research and we can understand what they're doing, we can highlight it more clearly, and more people can recognise that something is different and odd and strange. And I guess that's it in a nutshell for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is yeah. Thanks for your information. So I mean, I know you also thanks of our common friends like Russ Tanner and all those people on Facebook. And I mean, I saw a lot of videos on YouTube which you uploaded also. So I mean, for me now this is also a very great day to see you finally live, to be able to talk to you, not just writing and messages and everything. Because a live stream, I mean, they say a picture is says more than 1,000 words, and imagine a video that says 100,000 of words then. So now we can get the message out here. I had Ross Tanner some hours ago. I would like to have us all together here, you know, to beat the trolls, because there's so many trolls outside. I mean, they're just working, I think, for the government, or they I don't know what they are and why they are doing this. Because what we are saying is the truth. I mean, just open your eyes, watch the sky, and you see it. And people are so blind. I mean, I don't know how it's in your country, but when you say to the people, watch the sky, what do you see? They say nothing, and it's full of chemtrails, and they say, I see nothing. So they're growing up now with all those things they see in the videos, in the magazines, because they are the chemtrails. So it goes in your mind, and you think that's normal because you see it officially. So when you see that, they see it's nothing, but there's really something bad going on. And the biggest proof now, even for me to say that's 100% sure, was that chemtrail interview, which was censored right away. I mean, it was just some a little time on my YouTube channel, and thanks to other people who copied that, who mirrored that video. Even you did it, and I think they took it away from your website, from your YouTube channel too. I'm not sure. Did they take erase it?
Twice they took it down. The third
Twice.
time I was threatened that they were going to take it down, and I contacted them. I responded back and said there is no way I'm going to contest this all the way. The version I finally put up had blurred faces and obscured voices, but it was quite clear what was going on, and it's still there. So I don't believe that they did say, well, there's a privacy issue. That's what it was. They were saying you're compromising somebody's privacy.
Yeah.
But of course, the version I finally managed to get to stay up is blurred faces and obscured voices. And it's still there a week later, so that was good. They told me I had 48 hours to take it down, and I refused. And
yeah, me too.
finally it's there. And it's a significant video.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I did it with that cam. It's a flip cam. I don't know if they still produce those digital cameras. And I was traveling to San Luis Potosí. It's a town here, Mexico, for another research of a meteor impact at that town, or close to that town. And I saw the cockpit open, and I saw the pilot there. So I thought, this is the chance to do it, and why not? I don't lose anything. I mean, we have free speech. I mean, I even asked him, the first person. I mean, that the whole interview was so funny, because normally all the pilots have to speak English. The first person, I think that was the main pilot, because the person I interviewed, I think, was the co-pilot. Was on the right side. I don't know. I'm not a specialist on planes, but I think the first pilot is on the left side, like with the car drivers. And I asked him, do you speak English? And he said no. So first lie, because pilots have to speak English. And then I asked the other guy, and at the moment when I say, do you know what a chemtrail is? What? And then, yes, I do what a chemtrail is. I thought, this is it. Now let's go. And then he asked me, are you filming me? And I didn't say no. I say, maybe, you know, like I didn't deny it. And I felt that even the pilot took that chance to talk more, because when you listen, I mean, I'm not a doctor with analyzing voices, but he went even sad when he said it's a necessary truth and something like this, because in his conscious, I mean, you think it's a
big
necessary.
debate. He said it's a big debate. He doesn't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He knows
I
exactly.
wonder how many pilots out there. I've met some pilots,
Yeah.
by the way. One of the pilot came to one of my talks, and he was really concerned, and he actually wanted to know how he could get the metals out of his own system. He was very. There was no problem convincing him that chemtrails are real. Whatsoever. What he actually wanted to know is how can he get them out of himself? He was very concerned about chelating the metals. So I think we have a great potential to reach the aviation industry, because many of them probably do not subscribe to doing this. Also, they're in danger because there is something called aerotoxic syndrome, which many people actually suffer from, but it's not widely known within the industry. Amazingly, I talked to some people in the industry and never heard of it. But in the UK, 2 BA pilots have died from it, and many are chronically ill and cannot work. Over 100 pilots a year have to put on oxygen masks because they become disorientated, or they fall asleep, or there's some problem with them, and they need to sort of sort themselves out. And this is aerotoxic syndrome. Well, if you're constantly flying through chemtrails that are filled with all these nanoparticulates, you're eventually going to get an accumulative level building up in your brain, and you're going to have cognitive problems. And this is starting to become more common now, because obviously they've been doing it for some time, and some of the longer-term pilots are beginning to get the accumulative effects. So, you know, we need to warn them so that they're aware, and more importantly, if they become aware and realise it's up to them, they can all pull together. And we could easily see a situation where all the airlines say we're not flying anymore. It's too dangerous.
Exactly.
They are seriously getting ill. And this is the worst thing for them, is it's accumulative. Yes, the metals can be chelated, so it's not all doom and gloom. But if they don't do anything about it, it will reach a point where they reach that neurotoxic level, and they're in serious trouble. And you know, God forbid, if they become aware, they can save themselves this problem. You know, and then, of course everyone else is a frequent flyer, and everyone else on the ground. You know, but this is a serious issue, and I commend you so much for getting that video. I think that's such a great foot in the door. It's a way to reach the aviation industry and say, yeah, it's okay to say, yeah, we know chemtrails are going on, and maybe it's a necessary evil. Who knows what spin story they've been sold.
Exactly.
But solar radiation management is not the real deal. It's ridiculous in a way, actually. It's just tremendous that they think they can get away with this. I've tried to talk to geoengineer students and lecturers at Oxford University, and I haven't managed to speak to any of them except for a group to do with the governance. And I talked to a very nice lady, and she was crying because I said to her, you know, like, people are worth it. You know, we need to explain to what's going on in the world, because this is non-consensual. We're not even consulted. And it's all lies. And she knew very well that what's going on is bad for everyone's health. It's a tremendous deception, terrible deception. It's all built on lies, and this is the incredible realization that most people struggle with, is the fact that our governments have been working for decades on this program, and they know full well it will harm us, and in fact part of this program is depopulation. You only have to look at men's sperm count and realise since the 1950s, men's sperm count has dropped 75%. In the last 16 years, French scientists have said that men's sperm count has dropped by 33%. If you look at young couples today, they often have to go and get IVF treatment to conceive a baby. This is depopulation. This is it. This is sterilising the population. This is real. So, you know, it's very difficult to deny that there are different aspects to this program. And I know I have a personal letter from a British MP who did a Freedom of Information search with the UK government and found out that the UK government was spraying different chemicals and pathogens on the British public from 1940 to 1979 with no consultation, no consent. And in these cluster areas where they were spraying particularly, there were numerous cases of miscarriages, there are numerous extra cases of leukemia and lung cancer and various other fatal conditions. And this is draconian. It's shocking, really, that this can go on, and we're expected still to trust the propaganda and the lies from governments when they say what you're seeing in the sky is just a condensation trail. And they've got frequently answered questions, and they even have quite complicated, scientifically baffling answers, so that most people will stop at that level and go, okay, it seems too scientific for me, I'll leave it at that and believe the frequently answered questions. But, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. All we have to do is look for some old books. Like, for example, in Mexico, I'm sure there must be some books of the 80s that will be tourist books, and they will show you some beautiful sights in Mexico. And none of those pictures from the 1980s will have a single contrail in it, not one, because there were none. They were extremely rare.
Exactly.
And it's the same all over the world. You know, it's the same all over the world. I found an old book from 1989. It's got 450 pages of different locations around France. Now, France is a very visited country, loads of history. It's a beautiful place. And in this book, there are pictures all around the whole of France and throughout the seasons. You've got snowy days as well as summery days. And I can assure you, I can get the book right now and show it to you. There is not one single contrail, let alone a chemtrail or a chem sky or anything. It looks beautiful, just like we used to remember.
Exactly.
And you know, France is on a particular geographically. Obviously, anyone going to Britain, quite a lot of people have to fly across France. Or if you're going to North Africa, or if you're going to Spain or Portugal, or to any of those islands, or you're going to Germany, Italy, depending on the other way, it's got very busy flight corridors. So these people who are debunkers, and they say, oh, the only reason we see more condensation trails now is because there's more planes. Well, I'll tell you what, Heathrow, London was the busiest airport in the world for decades. And long before, we started to see chemtrails or persistent contrails. So the idea, we always had busy air corridors, but no media, no newspapers from UK or from France can show any pictures of contrails or chemtrails pre-1990s, because there were none. But they had busy flight corridors. They had thousands of planes flying, so you would think that there would be a likelihood that you would see what we can see now. On a daily basis, you can see one plane, guarantee it's got a trail. You know, whether it's a short trail or whether it's a long trail. You know, today, I get excited if I see a plane with no trail whatsoever. I'm like, wow, look, there's a plane with no trail. But it's like, hang on a second. Years ago, that was normal. We never saw lines in the sky. You know, that's what caught my attention. Lines in the sky. We never saw lines in the sky, let alone grids or X's or bizarre things in the sky. You know, it's almost. I've come to the conclusion that people that deny chemtrails, they're frightened of the reality that maybe their government are so draconian that they're exercising some massive plan, and they don't want to believe that their governments could do that to them. So that's called cognitive dissonance. And I think a lot of people just don't want to believe it. So it's very difficult for them. And also, I think people are easily swayed by believing their governments. I think the governments have the upper hand. Everyone just believes the government. They think that the government has their best interests at heart, which is kind of crazy, really. But they use many things, such as the flicker rates on the televisions that people watch. They're set at a certain flicker rate so that they stimulate your brain, so your brain will go into an alpha wave state. That's a mild hypnotic state. So what it means is we get more news than we ever got when we were younger. It's more frequent through the day, and with the flicker rate, you're put into a mild hypnotic state. You take on board that information. You're no longer a critical thinker. You're not analyzing that information, thinking, is it true or not? You're in a hypnotic state and you just believe it. So I think they use the television, they use science, they baffle us with their experts. They've taken away our system of questioning things. It's very, very difficult to question the establishment. It's even difficult to get in touch with people in the establishment to question them. There are lots of different mechanisms where you'll phone up someone and you'll get some lady who's, oh yeah, send an email, or they've got different processes where basically you'll never get to talk to somebody who you might be able to challenge, because they're untouchable. They've got layers of protocol that means that you won't be able to get in touch with them, which is crazy. This is the society we live in, when the people you need to contact to question have barriers to stop you getting close to them or to communicate in any way, which I find very, very frustrating from my point of view. But from anyone's point of view, there is fundamental thing in the system. The fact that they could set up a program, which is, it's harming our environment. It's seriously harming our environment, by the way. This is real. You only have to start taking some rainwater analysis, or if you can't afford the independent lab analysis, get a pH kit and just check how the pH is changing, because plants only grow within a certain bandwidth of pH. There are limitations to how they take up nutrients, and if that pH level starts to change, then they basically will restrict how much nutrients they can absorb. And that means that food we're getting is second rate at that point. And it starts to move to the point where they need GMO foods that will survive in these extreme conditions that are being created by the chemtrails spraying these different toxins. And of course, we have biotech companies that have done the research and that have mature studies over a 20-year period, where they have the solutions for these toxic problems that are being created by chemtrails.
Exactly. Let me tell you something before you continue about the depopulation, because here in Mexico, I just got that information. They have used some years ago. We have also like Obamacare in the States, like in Germany they have no, I don't even remember, because I'm here in Mexico since 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, exactly. Yes, this is it. In Mexico we have also something, security. The name is Seguro Social. We say that here for the workers. And when women are pregnant and they give birth to a child, do you know what they did to that? To in a certain time to all those women after giving birth, they gave them, without asking them, a dew. Dew is a dispositive. It's a small iron thing, or I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not a woman, but there are some parts you put in the vagina that they don't get pregnant again. So it's like rape. Because they're touching that part and putting some strange stuff in the body of a woman without asking her. I mean, this is not
Forced
human.
sterilization without their knowledge.
Exactly, and
They were doing this in Sweden in the 50s, you know.
yeah, but you at least, I mean, you should ask the those women if they're thinking of having a bigger family, for example. But they didn't ask them, and they discovered that, and all those doctors are now in jail because
Oh, really?
yes, they found some. Of course,
Oh,
many
that's
escaped.
wonderful.
Yeah, many escaped, of course, but some doctors they could get, you know, they are now in jail, and I mean that just means that the government is doing things that yeah, to reduce the population, because I mean it's happening. It happened here, Mexico, even here, and they don't ask the people. I mean, that is what makes me crazy. They should ask the people, because we are paying with our taxes all these things they are doing, the doctors, and the chemicals, the investigations, the experiments and everything. It's our money, and if they use it for other things, I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, we are paying them that they are killing us, or that they are reducing us and interfering in our family lives and whatever. And I mean, this is not fair at all, you know. So I mean, I'm absolutely sure I have.
It's worse than not fair. It's like a Nazi fascist regime.
Exactly.
It's a one world government.
Yeah.
You know, the Bilderberg Group are the are like the cabinet for this one world government, this parallel government, and they have decided that population is a problem. You know, that's ridiculous. If you look at our beautiful planet, imagine every single road and track that you've ever seen in your life planted with an appropriate fruit or nut tree or some other food-bearing plant. Can you imagine what an abundant food supply we would have? You know, it's incredible. It's all perception, and they perceive that overpopulation is a problem, but that is absolute propaganda. It's total lies. And you know, they forced us to survive using fossil fuels so that they can profit. But you know what? That's rubbish as well. We could be running cars on HHO, which is basic chemicals, chemical science, where you just break down water with electrolysis and recombine it, and you can use your original engine. But all of this standardization from the Rockefellers and from the Rothschilds and all the people controlling the CFR and the United Nations, these people are just like insane despots. These people who decide how people are going to live their lives, or if they're going to terminate their lives. You know, it won't be long before they make euthanasia law, so you can choose to end your life if you want. You know, or that's the way they'll sell it, so that if you're suffering, you can do it. They can guarantee you, with all the GMOs and all the chemicals in the environment, that everyone will get sick by the time they will no longer productive for the system. So you can forget about retiring. Retiring will become a thing of the past, because by the time you get to 65, 70, you'll have some terrible disease, which will mean that you won't be spending the money you save. You know, you won't be enjoying your retirement, because they will think you're no good anymore, and they'll get rid of you. It's eugenics.
Yeah.
And this is the type of programs we can expose, that they are really practicing eugenics. Yeah. And chemtrails is a part of eugenics. You know,
of course.
They are literally sterilizing us. They are giving us illnesses. Some of these illnesses might not show up for 25 years, but they are making sure that they can cull the human race.
Exactly.
You know, we're not free anymore. I doubt we ever were, to be honest with you. I imagine that we've always actually been slaves, and they developed a system where they could get the technology they needed, so they had to take a gamble. They moved from the feudal system to the industrial revolution and to this political system, so that they could maneuver the technology to the level where they can introduce a scientific dictatorship, which is what we're starting to see. We're starting to see that they're using GM foods to change our DNA, to give us illnesses, to make us sterile. They are actually using science for this, and this has been in practice for at least 30 years. Now they're moving to nanotechnology, where they can do the same, where they can put nanobots box in our bodies to start affecting the way we think. You know, and this is part of the chemtrail thing. And at first I was very unsettled to talk about the idea that they're using nanotechnology in chemtrails, because for me it's enough to think they're controlling the weather and changing the soils and giving us illnesses by giving us a toxic overload, so that eventually we get an accumulation of these toxic metals in our brains and targeted areas of our brains, which will affect our behaviour and eventually give us Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and various other problems. But in actual fact, yeah, the metals that they use, particularly aluminium, if you start researching trimethyl aluminium, you'll find it's the basis of most nanotechnology.
Exactly.
And then of course you'll start to find military documents, and you'll start to find scientific documents that will confirm that they can do this, where they've got self-assembling programming, so that these nanotechnology particles can start clumping together and then organizing themselves and becoming a nanobot, which I was very uncomfortable to sort of start going down that line. I also I started to find information. The EU Parliament support the convergence of emerging technologies and biodiversity, which basically means they're happy for you to have a brain chip. They support this. Even the House of Lords in the UK had a Science and Technology Committee report done in 2010 on the use of nanotechnology in food. You know, this is so dangerous. You know, we think what they were doing to women after they had a baby, and you think what they can do with nanotechnology and what they can do with biotechnology, without anyone knowing whatsoever. Even the manufacturers could be using a product, they have no idea that there's something in it. This is so dangerous and so difficult to detect.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Exactly. I mean, I have also interviewed in the past victims of Morgellons, which is also very connected to all those things, chemtrails and whatever. So, I mean, when you see, for example, in the news, they are still talking about those kind of big chips they will implant in the hand or whatever. I mean, this is just mainstream media, which was even on TV, but with the nanotechnology, which is much more smaller, you cannot see it. You can, but you can get it even in vaccines. That is what I personally think
you
that
can
they.
have smart dust now. That's right.
Yeah.
Hitachi, GE, General Electric, Hitachi, they merged a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And one of their first developments was smart dust. And basically, what you can have in this grain of rice very chip, RFID chip, which many people have volunteered to have, or even pay $200 to have.
Yes, in Germany they are asking for it.
As a grain of sand. You know, so you can easily consume it in some food and you wouldn't realize it.
Yeah.
These things can be chemically tainted, so that they will biologically be directed to a certain part of your body and not be excreted.
Yeah.
You know, so they understand all the potential problems. Oh yeah, you might take some nanotechnology that could be excreted out your body. No, they taint it with a chemical so that it will then be transported to a particular part of your body, be lodged, stay there. You know, they're very advanced. They know exactly where they want to go with this. And in fact, if you look down the RFID route, you will start to understand that there are hundreds of billions of dollars being invested to set up infrastructures throughout the world, so that they hope commerce will be dependent and business will be dependent on the RFID infrastructure they're setting up. They're trying to use medical records and the idea that people might counterfeit a drug and could be dangerous to you. So they're trying to use an RFID system that will be foolproof, so that they can guarantee the safety of the drug that you might be wanting to buy. You know, this is how they sell it all. It's all about safety. Or you can have your health records on this chip, so that if if you're in an accident, you can be positively ID'd, all your information be brought up in an instant, and your life will be saved. Whereas beforehand, you know, it could be a big mystery. They've planned for the one world electronic currency to come in, and I've come across documents that I keep. I file all of my documents. This is quite long term, this plan, and you know, we're on the precipice of this. We are very close to the point where they will bring this about. And sometimes I wonder if these horrible situations in Syria and Iran and all the problems Israel are creating are a smokescreen, so that they can carry on bringing in this bigger agenda in the background with chemtrails and you know, if they can hit the toxic tipping point where crops start to fail, and the solution is, you know, whatever's happened, they've got their excuses lined up. They say it's all right, we've got GM solutions, and basically, if no other food will grow, or GM foods, that's a monopoly. That's you're rationing out food. That's total control over people. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you are. If your soil is no longer suitable for producing normal heirloom crops, you'll be dependent on GMO foods. The prices will go through the roof. They basically cripple everyone financially, except for those that are rich enough to survive. And they can easily move people. The United Nations Agenda 21, one of the main goals is to create a smart city grid where people will be encouraged at first and then later forced to move to cities, to these big designated living zones, and that the countryside will perhaps, maybe because of the toxic tipping point, maybe it won't be able to support life anyway, so people will move away to these areas where they can get their rationed food. And you know, it's horrible to hear of Syria and all the problems, but if you look into the background, it's quite clear this isn't about a conspiracy theory, because these are all things we can prove. These are all facts that are out there. They're not even hidden. You know, people start thinking about chemtrails, or it's a conspiracy theory. Well, that's what it's being sold to the public. But if you make the connections to United Nations Agenda 21 and start researching United Nations Agenda 21, which is called Sustainable Development, you'll find it's being taught in schools. Children are being groomed to become global citizens of this massive one world system that United Nations want everyone to become a part of. And they want everyone to become a part of it voluntarily. If they won't become a part of it voluntarily, then they will force them. This is the new world order. This is exactly what it is. And this isn't a theory. This information is out there. This is stuff everyone can find. And it, you know, it's a terrible revelation to understand it, but also it's also motivation to do something. Because you know, there comes a point where you realise enough information that this is all real, and that they are poisoning us. They are intentionally saturating us with EMF, because it affects our DNA, it affects our normal biological functions. They are basically manoeuvring the whole world into a situation where they feel they can control us all. And for those of us dissenters that are speaking out and trying to change the paradigm, you know, they'll try to demonize us. They'll say that we're terrorists. At some point, people that talk out about chemtrails will be terrorists before you know it, because they've got this anti-terrorist laws where they can arrest anyone and they can do anything. I mean, who would have said 30 years ago we would have a situation where they can arrest you with no charge for 30 days? In the UK, they can now arrest you with no charge and hold you for 30 days. Can you imagine what it would be like?
God.
This is a total tyranny that's been incrementally introduced.
Absolutely.
And people have been distracted by various political shenanigans or economic distractions, or there's always something going on that stops them seeing the bigger picture developing. And we're almost at a state now where they can just do anything they like, and they don't even have to justify themselves anymore, because we live in a total tyranny, this total totalitarian state. It's unfortunately the children are being groomed to accept this. you know, which I find the most frightening bit. I come across recently some education documents that are teaching them all about sustainable development, teaching them that the weather is naturally influenced by aeroplanes spraying particles into the atmosphere. This is how we get rain. This is somebody sent me some posters that are on the wall at a school in Chelsea in the middle of London, and basically they're saying that weather modification is the way that the weather is made. This is a normal thing. So basically, you know, adults are struggling to think that the weather can even be controlled. Adults think that the weather can't be controlled. That's like one step too far for most people to even grasp. Yet their children at school are being taught this is how it's done. You know, it's an incredible difference that older generations can't grasp that the weather has been modified at least since the 50s.
Yeah.
Yet children are being taught it in school.
Yeah. And not just the
You know,
school.
just
Not just the school. In any new movie, it's which is on in the cinemas, for, movie theaters. You know, I just saw Turbo. Turbo. It's with the snail. I don't know if you have seen those commercials about the Turbo and the movie by itself. It's a animation, and they put cameras in an animation. I mean, it's how can you put something by? I mean, it looks better a blue sky
in a cartoon even.
or the fluffy clouds, but they put all those things so that the new generations, they will grow up with this and see that like it's a normal sky. And there's so many subliminal messages in all those new movies. The famous triangle, you know, with the eye and everything, you find it everywhere, even in that soundtrack of that movie. I uploaded some screenshots on my wall. It's also if you go to my Facebook account, my albums, I made even an album of this with all the evidences. Even the soundtrack, there's a I think the group, the name is Ministry, and the song is NWO, New World Order. I mean, everything is full of that New World Order shit, you know. So in magazines now, in the new commercials, you see the camera over there, and old movies without cameras, they are putting them now in the digital remastered version, whatever, and you find cameras now little by little everywhere, you know. I mean, they're just brainwashing us. We are the last generation, in fact, what I think, who knows about that. But if we are dead, if you're dead, if I'm dead, who will tell the people? If we don't continue waking up the people, who will tell them what's really going on? They will grow up with all those lies, with all those chips inside since birth, whatever. I mean, with the nanotechnology, you not even can find them in a X-ray photography, you know. With the next generation, if we don't change now the things and make it good and get out those fucking new world order, next generations, they will suffer, and they will just think it's a normal life being a slave. I mean, I feel it by myself that I'm a slave already, because I not even have savings anymore. In the past 20 years ago, I still had some money in the bank, but now when I don't know how old I will get, you know. I mean, all my uncles and my family, they reached even smoking 90 and more years, healthy, strong. They even went to the wood to the forest to get some wood for heating the houses and everything. And now if you see old people with 60, 70 years old, they're in wheelchairs, many of them. They have Alzheimer. They save a lot of money because now they don't have to pay the retirement money, you know. So we are just living to work, be slaves, giving the money to those corporations and the pyramid and everything and the new world order. And then when we are done, they not even have to pay, because we are dying anyway much younger, you know, and all separated. There's almost no future for the old people. So how I see the things is, the new generation will just be there for working and not questioning anything, because everything is normal. The cameras, the big brother watching you everywhere, they just grow up with this kind of views, you know. And if someone is against the system, someone maybe intelligent and say that there's something wrong here, they take him out like this, because here in Mexico City, for example, we have almost every street full of vigilance cameras, but I mean, they put them there because people think now it's for security. If there's an assault or an accident, someone is watching you. They are not watching. I mean, so many cameras, you don't. Yeah, you don't have those 100,000 people who are watching 100,000 cameras at that moment. Of course, when there's an accident, later they are checking the videotape and then they are putting those images on TV and everything. But they don't help. Those cameras don't help at the moment. I think they're there just if they want to find you with the face recognition. Even on Facebook, if you upload a picture, tuk, 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 there are all the squares in the heads for putting the names inside. I mean, it's even in the normal programs there's face recognition, and I don't remember China or Japan, they have even a program in a university which identifies like this who is in the group, you know. They have so good cameras, so good programs to identify the person. So what I think in the future, if you're against the system, they just find you with the chip and with the cameras, and then they take them out, that nobody knows what's really going on. We are really in a I mean, George Orwell with 1984. I mean, this is an oldie. I mean, we are more ahead of that story, you know. And it's not even a science fiction movie. It's really happening. You see, they are even making movies with events what later happened. I think they're even playing with us, you know, with the shooting on the school in the United States.
The program, all the movies are just
Sandy Hoax. They say Sandy Hoax now. It wasn't the Batman movie. It was the map of that place where the shooting happened. I mean, everything is planned.
Sandy Hook, in the Batman film.
Exactly. I mean, I found all those proofs, and that's a good way to use now the internet, which was created for the military issues and etc. But now it's commercial. That we use that for sharing, and I hope also the people who are watching this video just don't watch it and that's it. Share it, because sharing is caring, and people have to wake up, have to see. You can research it on YouTube. You can just put chemtrails images on Google, and you see thousands of pictures, and ask yourself, is that normal what you see? I mean, this is just crazy, and that wasn't like that in the past. I mean, it's really happening, and it's really there killing us, you know. It's horrible.
It is horrible, but you know, also at the same time, I'm aware that we have a limited window of opportunity to make the difference, and I kind of feel it's all going to be just in time, because these people, they're clearly they're either insane or they're evil. You know, they're completely unsafe to be in government. They're unfit. They're despicable people, and clearly the policies have been carrying on through various different governments. It doesn't matter which government is in, the same policies and the same program is still marching on. So there's evidence really that when you look into it, you realize it's all a charade. It's all Punch and Judy. And there already is one government, and there has been for many decades, but what there hasn't been is the public acceptance of it. Really, government's job is just to bring about the public acquiescence. We have to submit, we have to surrender or consent to being in this slave system they're bringing about, which they call themselves the New World Order. You know, that's no conspiracy. They write about it, they talk about it. You know, various people mention the New World Order.
George Bush did it in a video. You can find it on YouTube. Put George Bush New World Order. He's saying that the ex-president was talking about we want a new world order. That's the biggest proof of all, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look into that, you'll find that many companies, many think tank organizations are linked to the New World Order, and they're constantly working to bring it about. I mean, these plans are massive.
Yep.
You only have to look at the education we received when we were children and what today's children receive. And you have to ask yourself, apart from computers, why should anything have changed? Mathematics shouldn't have changed. Language shouldn't have changed. The majority of science shouldn't have changed, except for emerging sciences. But they've changed a great deal. The curriculums are completely steered for propaganda. They use environmental and climate change as a big pivotal issue that's linked to many different topics, so that they can brainwash the kids to accept draconian plans like geoengineering. You know, the concept of geoengineering has been talked about for much longer than most people realise. This isn't a knee-jerk reaction. This has been going on for decades, absolute decades, and they've been working towards this public acceptance. This is their major hurdle for everyone to realise, hang on, the colour of the blue sky quite often isn't even the same colour we used to know, let alone all these strange cloud formations and all these lines in the sky. They've been working towards getting people to accept it by the chemtrail program being an incremental program where you just see a few sprays every now and again over the years. And then it goes in different phases where you start to see more and more and more, and oh yeah, there's more planes than there ever were. You know, one of the problems that when they say, oh, there's more planes flying than ever before, most airports have a capacity of how many flights they can take. They've only got a certain number of runways, and they've only got a certain number of slots per day when planes can take off and land. So they have a limit to how many planes they can take. Ask yourself, how many new airports are being built all the time? Okay, some new airports, but not that many. So it means that airports can only operate at a certain capacity. And once that capacity has reached its full limit, that's it. So you're not getting airports built like bus stations or something. You know, you might get an extra airport built every 10 years or something. You know, this isn't. You know, this is all about exaggeration and trying to create this public image, but it's propaganda and it's public relations and it's lies, basically.
Exactly.
You know, it really is.
Exactly.
And I, more than anything, I hope people from the aviation industry will start developing a backbone, start realizing they are in danger, start realizing their actions or their inaction is causing a great deal of harm to millions of people, to nature. You know, maybe they like bees because they like honey. 50% of the world's bees have gone, and the reason they've gone is because of electromagnetic frequencies connected to the use of HAARP. HAARP has a more widespread use. There are over 50 ionospheric heaters around the world. Now, these are they're facilitated by the use of the chemtrails. The chemtrails are filled with nano metals, particulates of these metals that are frequent, and the polarity of these metals means that their behavior changes. This is how they can use HAARP. This is why we've lost 50% of the world's bees. You can look up a PDF called Bees, Birds and Mankind. And it's done by a group of German scientists. And they explain a number of years ago, actually, I think that's 6 or 7 years ago, about the dangers of EMF frequencies and the fact that the colony collapse of bees started to occur where the ionospheric heaters were. They've made a strong link to the use of this, you know, and it's there are so many different issues. You look at dolphins, you look at whales, and you look at lots of beautiful creatures in our nature that are being destroyed. You know, we all are living here together. This is a small planet.
And there's no other
and
home.
it's we all help each other, whether we know it or we don't know it. You know, whether it's directly or indirectly, we're all a part of a biosphere. You know, this is a living planet, and we all affect one another. And slowly but surely, the planet is being poisoned. Now, it's not being poisoned by us. It's been poisoned by the people running this planet.
Yep.
That we don't decide that we're going to invent plastic 50 years ago and make sure everyone uses it. We didn't put bisphenol A into the plastic to try and sterilize all of humanity. We didn't put nuclear waste into the sea and dump it into the sea in unmarked locations so that later those containers would corrode and open and leak out into the atmosphere, into the water, into the sea. We didn't do that. People didn't do that. Governments did that, or industry leaders or corporations. That's a small group. That's a very select group. And in fact, if you look at corporations, you'll find, if you do research into who owns corporations, it's very revealing and very simple. You will find that most corporations, they own each other, and they own each other, they own each other until you get to the very top of a pyramid. And it's a very small group of people, very powerful, very rich people that run governments, that run the United Nations, that run the CFR, that run the Royal Institute for Foreign Affairs, and all these organizations that basically are shaping our lives. So we've got basically a small group of people who are extremely rich and powerful, and they are connected to the royal families of Europe, to the old Venetian black nobility. You can trace it back. They started out with the Royal Dutch East India Company, when they dominated all business in the world at that time. They were the first big corporation, and as the Industrial Revolution came along and more corporations developed, they control them all. And it is verifiable. This isn't a guess or an opinion. Anyone can research this information, that all these corporations are owned by the obscenely rich people in the world, and they actually do boil down to very small groups. They intermarry with each other. They keep it in the family. They have particular bloodlines. And it's true when people say, Illuminati. I don't like that word Illuminati. It sounds like a crackpot thing that's in movies or in stories or in cards, in games, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And it goes to the Freemasons, and it goes to the Khazars, the counterfeit Jewish people, and I've certainly got nothing against Jewish people whatsoever. But
it's the religion.
They dominate the media, and they dominate corporations, and they dominate the pharmaceutical industry and the military industry. They were created by the Freemasons, and the Freemasons are the group that all the royal families and all these rich people use to control society. They control the law system, they control the courts, they control the education system, they control the medical system,
media.
All this can be found out.
Yeah.
The hard thing is getting it across to people in a coherent way, where the penny drops. They move past all those horrible feelings you go through. I'm sure you, like I, have been depressed. We've felt a sense of bereavement. We've had the rug ripped from under our feet, and we have to realize that our governments are working against us. That's their job. Government actually means mind control.
Exactly.
It's from Latin words. Yeah, it actually means to control the mind. And this is what it's for. We are owned by them, although we never realized it. If you start looking into the free man movement, it's about realizing that we live in a sea of commerce, and that we are actually bankrupted nations, and when we are the payout, we act to pay out the loss, and we get labelled straw men. Our birth certificates are actually receipts, and you only have 7 years to redeem your freedom. But of course, no one knows about this, and what child would be able to redeem their freedom? So basically, we're tricked into a system where we are actually legally under the jurisdiction of the control of corporation, which is a legal fiction, which is our governments. Our governments are not what we believe. They are there basically just to manage the herd and bring about this massive, great big plan, which has been planned and written about for many decades. And it is the New World Order, and it is like a super state where there is one government, one army, one police force, one currency, one standardized education throughout the world. All the trade barriers and all those trade treaties were brought about to bring down the sovereignty of different nations so they could bring about this one world order. You know, and all these different facts, as hard as they are to swallow, because many people will be so uncomfortable if they are waking up to this, they're researchable, they're verifiable. It takes a bit of time. Fortunately, there are lots of people, many more people than us, researching this information and sharing this information so that you can speed up your own personal research, so you can find it out. You know, you can help people along the way, and it's all about uncovering the truth, lifting the veil of deception. We've been manipulated and cheated so long now that most people will accept it. You know, this is intergenerational. This has been going on for at least 150 years.
Thousands of
that
years.
They have been manipulating us and moving us to this point now. And we, as you said before, we are the last generation now. Literally, we have such a responsibility.
Yep.
It's make or break. Either their plans, the New World Order plans, play out and they get what they want, or, which I believe, I have utmost confidence that sufficient number of people will start to wake up and create a domino effect. We will reach critical mass, and most importantly, we'll reach the people within the establishment who are victims of compartmentalization and don't understand the bigger picture. They will wake up and go, I don't want this. I don't want this for future generations. I want a natural world. I want a free world. We can have everything we want in this world. We don't have to have this new world order system. The world is not in crisis. They put it in crisis. It's a Hegelian dialect where they've created a problem, we all start reacting to it, and then they start offering the solutions. It's a trap, it's a trick, you know, and we can, if we become aware of it and we realize the deception, we can realize they're guilty of creating the problems. They've toxified our planet, they've created all the wars, they've done everything possible to maneuver us into this situation where we will willingly accept, or maybe unwillingly accept, this new world order, which is going to be the solution to all the problems. They're trying to create a situation where we're the threats, where people, their normal everyday actions are a threat to the very planet that supports us. But of course, that's manipulated. It's not the truth at all. It's no way is it the truth. We don't need to be dependent on fossil fuels. That has been, look, Nikola Tesla 100 years ago devised a way where we could absorb electricity from the atmosphere.
Wow.
The ionosphere is filled with electricity. We only have to pull a jumper over our heads and see the static electricity shooting on our hair. You know, we are surrounded by electricity. We can have access to free electricity. Right? They knew about this 100 years ago. When Tesla made that discovery and demonstrated it, they blackballed his projects because J.P. Morgan was his patron, and they stopped him from releasing that information. And when he died, he had hundreds of patents, and those patents were kept secret. Except, of course, you had a man called Edgar J. Hoover, who took all the patents about the use of HAARP and weaponry for directed energy weapons and various other patents, which would be later developed. And this is how long the weather control programs, the use of HAARP has been in development. It's been over 100 years.
Yes.
So when you come across vintage weather books, you will find that they're tainted with propaganda even back to the 19th century. Now, I've got documents, I've got books going back to the mid-18th century, and they're very revealing. They knew about solar flares affecting our weather back in the mid-19th century, in the 1850s. And so you really have to go digging to find this information. They knew that they would be able to manipulate that. They knew that they would be able to put satellites up into space one day to start interfering with our ionosphere so that they could manipulate space weather, so that they could manipulate the climate. So this has been a very, very long-term plan. And it's quite incredible to discover. But for me, being like an ordinary everyday person, as I started to find out more information, it's so revealing. It's almost like I need to find out more, because the more we can find out, the more we can share, and the more other people can find out for themselves, and the more they share, and quickly we can start to change the paradigm, because it's all by deception. If people don't know what's going on, they accept the expert's opinion. And I even wonder if half of the experts are con. You know, whether they just believe the data that comes from places like the Ruskin University at East Anglia, the climate research in the UK, which 3 times was caught out skewing their data to fit a particular model so they could claim global warming was a real threat. And in actual fact, we've been going through global cooling. You know, global warming is a complete farce. And of course, there are periods of global warming as a normal cyclic.
Exactly. It happened before and will happen in the future.
Our planet just goes through normal cycles.
Yeah.
It gets hot and cold. That's the way that it functions, you know.
Exactly.
You know, the Romans were growing grapes in North England when it was far too cold to do it now. The Vikings were growing barley in Greenland up until the 14th century. They had settlements there for 300 or 400 years. Now, they had to move on because it got too cold, because we had a medieval ice age. The little ice age, they call it. Now, what happens after you go through an ice age? You get warmer. You know, it's a no-brainer, really. They're like, the Earth cycle don't happen on a weekly basis. They happen over years, many years. And they knew that the Earth would be going through different cycles, and they played on that. They've also been climate forcing for so long now. Up until the 50s, there was a great deal of talk about forcing global warming. They wanted it. They wanted to release the shipping lanes through the polar regions. They wanted to expose the vast regions of Canada, Alaska, and Russia so that they could exploit the resources that were there. And in fact, I've come across many documents now. It's very advanced. They are planning for several major settlements in the polar region so that they can exploit the resources which are currently not available because it's too cold. So they are planning for global warming. They are making it happen. It's no coincidence that many of the major ionospheric heaters are around the polar region, in Alaska, in Norway, in Sweden, in Russia, even in China. There's no coincidence that they're all around that region. They're microwaving. And in fact, a lot of the early geoengineering was done in the polar region where people wouldn't see it. And the risks that were talked about to the indigenous people, because there are not such high populations of people, were deemed to be acceptable. So they were collateral damage. If there was a big problem with health issues, it would show up on a smaller scale with the indigenous people living in these polar regions, and no one would know about it. So, you know, it's incredible. It's been going on for a long time. They're crazy.
Yeah.
They are insane. They think they can play with everyone's lives. They really believe they own us. Which, you know, I dispute that. I consider myself to be a free person. Not legitimately, because I have to pay tax and I'm living in a system. I've got nowhere to escape to. But, you know, I'm doing all I can to try and reveal the truth so that we can develop a system where we can be free and the planet can be safe. And we can learn to live in harmony with our beautiful planet. You know, there's no reason why our planet has to be in jeopardy except for the reasons that have been forced upon us. There are alternatives. This is the thing. A lot of people are dependent on a system because they've been conditioned to be dependent. But there are many alternatives. There are many alternatives to energy. There are many alternatives to the material and fabric we need to use in our lives. Hemp can provide a great deal of building materials, of fabric, of medicines, or all sorts of things. I mean, most diseases and medicines, in my opinion, are manufactured and forced upon us. You know, the rise in cancer in 1970, the rates of cancer were likely to be 1 in 10 people might develop cancer in their lifetime. Well, today, it's 1 in 3 for women and 1 in 2 for men are likely
Exactly,
to
Mexico.
develop cancer in their lifetime.
Excellent.
Now, you know, I mean, how far does it have to go? It's not very far to go where they guarantee everyone's going to get cancer. Now,
Yeah.
what the bloody hell's that? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
how did we suddenly deteriorate in 40 years to a
Yeah.
state where 1 in 2 people, 50% of people are likely to develop cancer in their lifetime?
Yeah.
Now, you know, that's by design. That should be a
Exactly.
crisis. That should be a major topic, an everyday conversation with all politicians, with everyone, but it's not. And I would suggest that's because it is by design, and that is part of depopulation, and that is part of creating revenue for the government-owned, the corporate-owned medical, pharmaceutical industries. You know, it's about draining your resources. If you're ill, you're not thinking about what's going on in the world. You're worried about what's happening in your life. If your parents or your family are ill, who are you concerned about? You're not worried about the bigger picture. You're taken care of, aren't you? You're out of the picture. You're out of the equation. You're no longer part of the calculation anymore. You're taken down. It's a bit like when I was in the army, we changed from weapons, personal rifles that used to fire 7.62 weapons. If you got hit by one of those, there's a good chance you'd die. If you got hit in the torso, if you got hit in the shoulder, take the shoulder off. Then they changed to a weapon that was a bullet, a caliber that was 5.56. That was designed to wound you. Why? Because you take out 3 people. If a high wound you and you're still alive and you need help, someone's got to take care of you, and one person can't carry you from part of the battlefield to somewhere else. You need to be CASEVAC, so you need 2 people to get rid of you. So that's 3 people you've taken out of 1 injury. You know, so this is what it's like with the medical industry. You give people cancer, you're starting to take out the population. You're taking out their family as well, because their family are concerned about their person that's suffering with this illness. You know, this is part of a much bigger plan. This is part of a strategy to wear us all down, to take down our resources. You know, people are ill, you've got to travel to get treatment, you've got someone to take care of you. There's all sorts of things that basically drain your resources and stop you focusing on the bigger picture. Unless, of course, you start waking up to it.
Let me tell you, I mean, you told it already about with the cancer. I received this week a message on my cell phone. You know, in Mexico they are sending the news by cell phone. It's for free, and they said from 100 women, 30 have cancer. It's like 1, 2, you have cancer. 1, 2, you have cancer. The breast cancer, for example. You know, I mean, this is not normal anymore. I mean. When I grew up, I'm from.
It's insane.
Yes,
you know,
it's a design.
Why people aren't putting 2 and 2 together and realizing there's a massive fundamental problem. Why is there an epidemic of cancer in society? You go to Africa and it's much less. There's hardly any cancer in Africa, because, you know, I mean, it might be changing as they all got mobile phones now, practically for free, and they're starting to be exposed to processed foods, you know, and GM foods and stuff like that, which obviously anything that's been chemically molested is likely to have an adverse effect on you at a later point. You know, you've got aspartame, you've got MSG, you've got saccharin. These are chemical weapons. These are weapons that have very, very drastic chemical effects on our bodies, on our systems. You start eating processed food with MSG, you're going to put on weight. MSG, monosodium glutamate, is what they give to lab rats to make them fatter for experiments. You know, and they're putting that in all our food. You know, it's insane. You got aspartame, which was a chemical weapon. What aspartame does to rats under experiments is it stops them being territorial. It takes away. It's a bit like Prozac, which is massively in our systems. Basically, it takes away your territorial instincts. So basically, you won't fight something that doesn't feel right anymore. You know, so they're killing this instinct in the herd to group together and protect ourselves. You know, this is what these things are for. These are weapons to break down our solidarity, our community, so that we don't start acting as a group anymore, and we don't care what's going on. You know, particularly that's what Prozac is. You know, fluoride in water. Not only is it linked heavily to cancer, it's linked to pacification.
You know, I grew up in
This is why
Germany.
they used it.
Yeah,
Stalin and Hitler used it in
yeah.
concentration camps to reduce the amount of guards that they would need in
Mhm,
these concentration camps, because everyone was walking around accepting their fate.
mhm. You know, I grew up in Germany. I'm German from Munich, and in I think in the 70s was the first time I heard about cancer, but just one person, and it was a famous one. So they put that like a scanner. It was, I think, Hildegard Knef is the name of that actress, and it was in Stern. Stern is the right pronunciation. It's like Star is the magazine, very very famous in Germany, and they put cancer Hildegard Knef, and everybody, what is that? You know, it was the first time in my life I heard about cancer, and now every third woman has it. I mean, this is, I mean, they did it by design, of course, because they could pick out someone else, unknown person, but that doesn't I mean, that doesn't give you that impact. So they put a very famous person. It's like Marlene Dietrich, etc. Hildegard Knef did a lot of movies, and and she was in all those newspapers and magazines, the cancer case, and then you know, of course, with AIDS, with the singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury, you know, they're choosing those famous people to that we are prepared for this. You know, I feel that like they are putting that in our brains, so we know about that sickness, and even the famous person can get it or whatever. And now I have it. I mean, I don't have it yet, but I mean, everybody could be a victim of this chemical attacks, because this is not natural anymore. And many of the things, just remembering the word Illuminati, there are Illuminati cards before those things happen. There, the things are in the cards, like the 9/11 false flag and whatever. I mean, this is all in the cards. They know that since decades what they will do, and they're still now with the meteor impacts. You see that all in the cards. I mean, this is not a coincidence. I mean, if it
No.
would be just one card, you could say, "Wow, nice guess," you know. But there's so many cards already through mind control, weather modification. It says that in the cards. It says 100,000 of things there. You know, I mean, this is really happening, and this is not science fiction or a conspiracy theory anymore. I mean, this is you see it in the movies. The movie is done with all this evidence, and then it happens. So they knew it before they do it, like with the Sandy Hoax, you know. So I mean, this is I mean, really, it's all by design. I agree 100% with that. Growl.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They've
Mhm.
been working for a very, very long time towards this.
Yeah.
They've got the brightest minds that they filter through the university system to join their NGOs like RAND, like Tavistock, and different organisations. There are literally hundreds of them,
Yeah.
and they work on every scenario you can imagine
Mhm.
to bring about their end goals. And they literally, I mean, as far as cancer is concerned, aluminium is linked to many illnesses, many.
Mhm.
And the main constituent of deodorant, which became popular in the 60s and the 70s,
Mhm.
is aluminium. And you rub it on underarm, or rub on or spray on, and underneath the arm, a lot of people have hairs, and this is a perfect entry point to the lymphatic system, which is why so many women get breast cancer,
Mhm.
because it's linked to deodorant.
Mhm.
And of course, they also wear bras that have metal wires inside. They're pointing, they rise up under the cup,
Mhm.
and when you get directed with electromagnetic energy, which we're all surrounded by, what this does is it focuses it into the breast.
Mhm.
So it's another trigger
Mhm.
that can bring about cancer. But
Mhm.
truly, if we start to wake up and we start to analyze the changes in culture, such as deodorant, such as processed foods, such as the petrochemical farming revolution, which has saturated the soils with fertilizers. You only have to look at rivers,
Mhm.
right, and the dangers of eating fish from rivers in Europe. Basically, those rivers now are toxic highways because all the soils have leached fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides through 40 years now of constant spraying. And it's got to the point where it's seriously affecting the environment, and it's unsafe to eat fish from the rivers without them being highly contaminated in these chemicals from the petrochemical farming revolution. And all of this, if you look at all the different steps that they've taken, it's quite clear that there is a massive attack on humanity. A slow, incremental attack, but it's quite clear once you become aware of the scale. And also it's confirmation that corporations, at least at the very upper levels, and the governments have to be complicit, have to be on board. And I mean, obviously we know that many people are attendees of the Bilderberg group, and we know that that many famous politicians have talked about being in a parallel government, like Margaret Thatcher. We only have to look at privatization that swept around the world at the same time. You know, if we're supposed to have independent governments, independent nations, why is it the same programs, even something as simple as banning smoking in public places, happens simultaneously around the world? Isn't that evidence of a one world government? Even though different governments release that new policy, if you're aware of what happens in other places, it happens simultaneously. Well, that's not by accident. You can't. You know, we are living in a one world government, and we have been for some time.
Yeah,
For some reason, we're lucky enough with this double-edged sword, this internet system, which is designed to create a dependency on technology, so that all businesses now have to operate on technology, and even children talk to each other through their telephones now. You know, they all sit around hunched up over their iPhones, sending texts to each other. They live in a virtual cyber world, which obviously gives them their cultural values, their opinions, their ideas are all through cyberspace, not through talking to their peers in the flesh. We also have the opportunity to get information across to people before they censor us, before they lock down the internet, and I think that's a crucial time. I think this is what gives me hope. You know, I think that though things seem stacked against us, we also have the limited tools, but the tools necessary to wake up sufficient number of people to turn it all around. And it seems that this is last minute stuff. This is like quite desperate when you realise what's going on. And you know, so many people are not awake yet, but you know, a significant number are. It does seem to be just about in time, just about. I think. You know? So although we've talked about a lot of things right now, and it's great.
Time is now.
Especially people new to this. I think there's a lot of hope.
Look, time is now. I mean, what I'm doing, I mean, I'm not a specialist. You know much more than I know. Russ know a lot also of the chemtrails. He even can smell them. What I suggest is why we don't unite. I mean, we are separated. Everybody's just posting his stuff or sharing, but we need to be together on it, because the government is separating each other. I mean, I see changes in culture, even here in Mexico City. People are not like in the past. When I arrived to Mexico, when I migrated in '93, 20 years ago, there were family reunions every Sunday. All the aunts and the uncles and the grandfather, grandmother, the mother and the daughters and whatever, there were reunions. Today it's almost over. Everybody's busy. Everybody's just working and worried how to make money, you know, because there are no savings. So I mean, we are so divided and living with fear, you know, when I mean, with fear you control also the people. So I think it's time that we all unite. I mean, like I did it now with the live stream for 24 hours, now it's 25 or 26 hours even, that I'm transmitting this and having contact with all. I even know, do you know Anthony Hilder? Anthony Hilder is, I made also one with him, and he also agreed. He say, yeah, let's be all together on this, because they have their army. There are a few people, but we are more. We are so many truth seekers and people who knows what is happening. We should be together. Anthony Hiller told me that would be the best contact. Also, this person and this person and this. And guess what? Anthony Hilder was talking the same things we are also talking right now with the Illuminatis. 20 years ago, I found a video from 93 where Anthony Hilder was talking about the same new world order shit and everything. I mean, we cannot afford wait another 20 years. In 20
No.
years, we will be
No,
60.
time is running out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 48, almost 49. I mean, maybe in 20 years, I won't even be alive anymore. And who will do our job, let's say, waking up the people, if we are extincted, you know, if we are not anymore here on the planet to give those kind of news, you know. I mean, we will be just history, and the really history books are anyway so manipulated. The people think that is true, what they give now the people to read and everything. So if we don't do things right now, who will do that? You know, I mean, future generations.
It's
they
essential.
robots.
Their plans are so advanced now
Yeah.
that the next stage is. I mean, we do have a short amount of time.
Mhm.
They have plans for when the electronic currency is going to come in,
Mhm.
when they're going to collapse the currencies. In America and in Mexico, they're going to have the Amero they talked about. They might even skip right past the Amero, and they might go straight to a one world electronic currency.
Uh-huh.
They've already got the American Union, which is almost at the advanced stage where the borders will go down and there will be no more sovereignty. You know,
Okay.
they're almost at that stage. But more importantly, with the biological effects that they're bringing about for people, transhumanism and eugenics, which really transhumanism is like eugenics was pursued about 100 years ago, or maybe even longer, and transhumanism is the more advanced scientific version, which is about nanotechnology changing the way humans evolving basically. And this is we're at the precipice now where hundreds of billions have been invested in this technology. Governments have announced that they are supporting the convergence of emerging sciences with biodiversity, which basically they are saying, yeah, we're happy to have microchips in human beings. First of all, they will say it's because people with certain illnesses will get a nanochip, and basically they'll see some dramatic improvement, and everyone will go, wow, yeah, that's great, isn't that amazing? That person had Parkinson's and they've turned it all around, and now they're back to normal, and yeah, nanobots are good. I want one. You know, if I get ill, I want a nanobot. And of course, everyone's going to get ill because they've given us all dormant viruses.
Yeah.
So the truth is, we have a limited time. We have a limited time where the internet is still available and we can share information. And, you know, very soon they're doing a trial. They have been doing a trial for some time in China. And China is basically the model country for the New World Order. This is communism was set up by the British. Communism was installed. Lord Bertrand Russell, who was a main man for MI6, basically he went to Russia, to China in the 20s, and he started to put communism on the table for them to adopt at a later date. This is very, very long term in the planning. So what we're looking at is China brought about the one-child policy. That was lauded as a wonderful achievement in the United Nations, because depopulation is a serious goal of theirs. In China, they now have censorship for the internet. You know, so they control the content that people have access to. Now they want to bring that model into the rest of the world. You know, so it's up to us, while we still have the ability to communicate, share information freely. It's already starting to come in slowly. If you start to try look for a sensitive document that someone might put a link up, the link could be broken or you'll get an error 404 or
Mhm.
error 400 or whatever. Basically, they're slowly bringing in censorship now.
Mhm.
It,
Exactly.
it can't be immediate, because if it's too quick, everyone will be up in arms and they won't be happy about it. But
Mhm.
they'll bring it in very, very slowly. They'll use different things, horrible things like child pornography or something else like that, that says it needs to be policed, or whatever method that they'll come along. There'll be financial problems where people's accounts will be hacked or whatever, and they'll say we need to bring in more security, whatever reason it is
Mhm.
that they'll find to
Yes.
sell us the idea. They want us to willingly accept
Mhm.
this censorship. They will find a way for us to accept it, or try to make us accept it. They're already filtering our activity on the internet with targeted adverts. You know, this is the latest thing, whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, or whatever it is. You get adverts. So you were looking at something. I was thinking of buying a new camcorder. Every time you go on the internet, for the next few weeks, you'll get nothing but adverts on camcorders, because they're getting us used to the idea we're being monitored,
Mhm.
and they're interacting with us.
Mhm.
So they're developing this concept that it's normal for interaction on the computers. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to convey the fact that the internet is
Exactly.
a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
and we've got a limited time to make the best use of it.
Yeah.
Which means that, you know, everyone has to start participating. Everyone has to try to do something. It doesn't matter how big or how small, because everyone does make a difference. You know, everyone really does. It doesn't matter what they do, whether they're just wearing a T-shirt, or whether they put a lawn sign out, or whether they wear a card, or they just point out chemtrails, or they talk about fracking, they talk about illegal wars in Syria, or they talk about the banking corruption. How is it bankers get bailed out? No other company gets bailed out. It's supposed to be private companies. Why are private companies getting bailed out to the tune of billions, to $70 billion? Why does one company get a bailout? You know, that's ridiculous. No private company would ever be given 70 billion as a gift to save them from going bankrupt. You know, that kind of behavior is incredible, and somehow gets swept under the carpet because the government are handing out your money that you'll be paying for the next 30 years in tax. You know, these are incredible plans, really, that are being swept under the carpet, but we can become aware of them because we have access to the internet, and we can share information, but we won't always be able to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We won't always be able to do that.
Since they, the two guys, I think there were two guys who invented the YouTube channel, and they got paid a lot of money. I mean, not enough money, but they, of course, they see the money and say, yeah, okay, have it, you know. And now everything is controlled by all those corporations, Google and everything. They are under control of YouTube. That's why they can take out our videos like this, you know. I don't have to delete it. They delete my videos. They can go to my channel. They have my password. They have everything, you know. I mean, this is yeah, we are controlled wherever
It's a
we are.
totalitarian state.
Exactly.
And what they're doing by removing that that video,
Yeah.
what recourse do you have to say to them, hey, that's wrong, I don't agree with what you've done there, I want to contest what you're doing? Because you can't phone up a person, you can't have a conversation with a person, you can't put your opinion across. What you've got are computer programs that are designed to be totally against your actions, just in favor of their actions. You know, if you want to do something, at the moment on YouTube, they're saying, oh, I want to change your name. They want you to use your real name. So quite often you use YouTube and it goes through this program. Will you change your name to this, to your real name, and not do it? If not, okay, we'll ask you again later. And basically they keep repeating it and repeating it until one day they just say, okay, we're just doing it.
Exactly.
And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't communicate with them. This is just a computer system. It's just a program.
Yeah, it's a fucking program. And even if you want to upload videos more than 15 minutes, they ask you for for your cell phone number, for example, and they send you the activation code, so they have your cell phone. And the new cell phones, they are with GPS, so they can look
RFID chips in them.
they can look localization, what is the name? They can find you like this with the GPS system and everything.
Oh,
And
they've been able to do that for over 20 years.
yes,
When the
yes.
first mobiles came out in the 90s, there was an agreement made between governments and manufacturers that they would be completely interchangeable
Here it is.
on the data level
Mhm.
with governments. So they
Yes.
can check where you are,
Yeah.
they can triangulate where you are. I mean, they've been talking about that in movies for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, they can trace your call instantly. Forget about that
Mhm.
45 seconds up on the phone, looking at the clock, going, talking to someone in the government, and then it gets down to 40 seconds, and you put the phone down so they can't trace you. That's absolute nonsense.
Uh-huh.
As soon as you activate your phone and you press that button, they're on you straight away.
Mhm.
As soon as you start making your call, there's a record of it. They know exactly where you are, how long you made your call, who it was to, and they recorded your call and archived
Mhm.
every single call made in the world
Mhm.
is archived on computer.
Of
And
course.
if they decide that they want to investigate that, or
Mhm.
a computer will just go through it and scan it and decide whether a human being needs to look at it at a later date. It's all done automatically. They've got supercomputers that are more than capable of doing this. This is nothing for them. You think of a search engine, you can put in, I've looked up documents and I've taken a phrase out of that document and I've tried to search for it to see if I can find it in some other reference, and it will come up with 300,000 things in 0.7 seconds, and there it is. There's the link in the thing I'm looking at. This is the technology they've got.
Yeah.
They can do this in milliseconds. It's staggering, but you know, I mean, people have to put what they can see for themselves. Just to use a search engine as an example of what the government can do with your conversation.
And
It's too easy for
yeah,
them.
and there's something also very strange going on. I mean, you know, when you have a phone, this is a wireless home phone, suddenly the light goes on without, now I had to press that the light goes on, but it goes on by itself. I have a lighter, when I press here, there are lights, you know, but you have to
Okay.
press it. It doesn't go on by itself, and it goes on by itself in my home. So that means
Well, I can tell you what that is. Your telephone, just like every other person's telephone, can be remotely turned on so that they
Exactly.
can listen to you.
yeah, there's the microphone here, and they can check us out what we are talking privately here, whatever. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Laptop, mobile phones, cordless phones, even land corded phones, old corded phones.
Yeah.
They can do that. They can just switch on the phone. I mean, the only way you can avoid that is by getting an old Bakelite phone from the 1950s, and hopefully, maybe you can use one
Yeah,
of
those
those.
ones.
An analog phone, yeah.
You have to
They
dial,
can't-
you know.
They can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's the technology. They can change the frequency in your house through your power lines to
exactly.
affect your behaviour.
Yeah, now with the
You know,
smart
even
meters.
these low energy light bulbs that they're trying to get rid of incandescent light bulbs, the normal old
I know.
light bulbs. These new low energy light bulbs, if you put an EF meter near them, electromagnetic frequency meter, and you turn the light bulb on, it's off the charts. It goes straight off, and all that type of electromagnetic frequency smog, it affects your DNA. It affects the way our bodies, our normal cellular function, it works because our body communicates both through electromagnetic pulses. This is how our cells communicate. This is how the signals are sent in our body, and they can be disrupted and they can be changed.
Exactly.
This is part of this weaponization of everything
Yes.
that we're exposed to in our lifetimes
Yeah.
now.
And when you
It's a
see
weapon against us.
Yeah, and when you see the new laws, I mean, even Mexico, the president said, the last president of the last 6 years, you know, now we have a new one, but he said until this year you cannot buy the 100 watts, then next year the 60 watts, and then they want to get rid of it. And I think it's happening all over the world. They want to obligate us to use those new light bulbs, and it's for some reason, you know. It's not for energy saving. This is bullshit. This is for other reasons, you know.
And those particular light bulbs are extremely dangerous if you break one.
Yes.
If you break one of those light bulbs, they have nanoparticles of mercury in them.
Yeah.
If you breathe those in, there has been a case actually in Germany. A young boy was playing with something in his bedroom, and he broke his table lamp, and he breathed in the particles from that exploded from the light bulb, and he's lost all his hair. He's having breathing problems. He's got ongoing medical conditions because of his exposure to the material that was exploded out of the light bulb. And his parents are trying to sue the light bulb company, and of course they're having lots of problems because it's a corporation. Corporations are immune to the law. But this is a serious case, you know. If you had that amount of mercury that can come out of a light bulb in a swimming pool, no one could go in that swimming pool. You know, these are the types of levels of dangers. Think about how many light bulbs will eventually go into landfill sites and eventually seep into the water system, and it is just another way to get these heavy metals, which they've identified will target areas of your brain and accumulate, so that you will get illnesses, or you can be affected by the frequencies, because you've then got mini antennas inside your brain. You've got metal in your brain that shouldn't be there, that will react and stimulate parts of your brain when it gets frequenced by the various electromagnetic frequencies. So this is part of a massive weapons program to expose us to these things. And you know,
I just imagine. I don't know how is the technology. I just imagine one thing. If we all imagine in all our homes and the table and the table lamps and the lamps on the ceiling, whatever, I can imagine if they put up the voltage maybe with harp or something, and imagine in all our homes exploding this, we are getting attacked at the same moment, and they can just take us out like with this. I mean, might be possible.
Actually,
I don't know.
There's a man that talks about chemtrails called Barry Trower. Now he's an ex-British microwave weapons expert from the 60s, and he's been speaking out about the dangers of chemtrails and about electromagnetic frequencies and microwave technology. And he said that, and I can confirm this because I have found some documents to prove that this is a bioweapon system. What they can do is spray viruses and bacteria in a fragmented form. So it's not the entire virus, but what they can do is stimulate that virus at a later date with electromagnetic frequency. So it's a dormant virus. So we could all be contaminated with a virus, perhaps from the chenwebs, for example. I'm not sure about the chenwebs. I know that the chenwebs have lots of chemicals involved that are constituent that make them act as endocrine disruptors. I have had a French colleague that's tested those at the laboratory, and I've had taken a sample in the last couple of days that is getting tested. So I'll have my own personal results from that I will find out for myself. But basically, a virus, viruses were put on spiders' webs and released into the British public in the 60s. In the 1960s, they were experimenting with pathogens and viruses on spiders' webs and releasing them into the air to see how far it would travel, and then how far that disease would, like, could be E. coli or whatever, how far it would travel. They wanted to know. Their excuse was that maybe the Russians might use some biological weapon, and they wanted to know how far it would travel. So that basically they've done the research themselves. Now it is quite. Barry Trower has said that chemtrails can. That they've found viruses and bacteria and incandescent red blood cells in some chemtrail fallouts, and basically we could all be exposed, whether it's from chemtrails falling on water reservoirs, whether it's falling on crops, whether it's on grazing land that animals have consumed, whether it's going through the food chain, or whether we've breathed it in or we've whatever, we've got it. They could frequency us with the right type of frequency to activate this dormant virus to the point if they want to. You know, this is of why we all need to find out all the information we can personally to
Yeah.
verify information. Now, lots of people are trying to do what we can to find the information and share that information so that it gives people a head start, so they can use this information. This is from government documentation. This is from military documentation. These are from research laboratories. This is from scientific universities. You know, this isn't from just a blog. This is from proper, verifiable resources. And when people start to find this information, I think they have to go through the process, how awful it all is, but take this on board and realise this is a do or die. This is an all or nothing. This is right. This is it now. This is it right now. You put it off to later and decide someone else will deal with it. You're crazy. No one coming to save us. No governments you can run to. No government anywhere in the world can you run to, because they are all gone. They were gone a long time ago. All governments are about managing their people. They are there to look after the people, to control them, to bring about the new ideas, to change their culture, to change their concepts, that they will adopt eventually the new world order. That is the role of government, to help bring about the new world order, to bring their population up to speed so they will adopt the new world order. That's all government's about. So it doesn't matter where you live in the world. All wars are for bankers. All wars are to bring about the agendas so they can bring about the new world order. We might think there's a war going on, like the Second World War, the First World War between Germany and the Allied nations, was completely manipulated right from the beginning, right from the outset. People won't believe that. A lot of older people won't believe that. But it was interesting. I had a letter correspondence from my grandma. She's still alive. She's still with us in her 80s. And she told me when she was a little girl, they always knew when they were going to be bombed because it was in retaliation. Germany was attacked. This is a fact. My grandma innocently writing letters about what it was like for her when she was a child. She was evacuated from where she lived. In her letters, she says, we always knew when we were going to get bombed because it was in retaliation. And I look at it and I think, bloody right it was, because, you know, who got firebombed? What cities got destroyed? You know, how many people really died, you know, from bombing attacks? And people don't know this, but Germany suffered far more than the UK did. Far more. The number of bombing attacks, the number of casualties because of the Blitz was a minuscule amount compared to what the German civilian population suffered. There were towns like Forchheim that were firebombed, that had no military installations there. 40,000 people in one night just burnt to death that were complete civilians. Had nothing to do with it. You know, it's incredible. You only have to think about Dresden, how that was firebombed. There was nothing there, you know, nothing there of military significance. And when you start to look at how governments operate and who funds these governments, who funds the people who are making war, you know, what companies are involved supplying weapons, you know, you find it's the same banks, it's the same corporations supplying ammunition to both sides. They're making money out of it. You know, it's in their interest to create wars because they make money, but they also get an opportunity to change culture. They get an opportunity in Germany, for example. I'm going to use Germany because I know you're German. You know, you look at how public opinion has been conditioned since the Second World War. Now people in Germany are subservient to the governments. They have been conditioned. They have been trained through guilt about what Hitler did, what the Nazis did to the Jewish people. It wasn't just the Jewish people, it was all sorts of different people or whatever. But, you know, I'm not a Holocaust denier, but I think it was vastly exaggerated.
Of course.
Lots of
how do you
agendas.
kill 6 million people, burn them? I mean, it's a lie. I mean,
Well, actually, okay, I'm going to go down this route.
uh,
I've been looking at some documents about the early development of the New World Order,
uh-huh.
and the Jewish people, and I've got nothing against Jewish people.
Me
I
neither.
really, truly haven't. And in fact, somewhere long way back in my family, there are people that were Jewish, but that doesn't make me Jewish. I'm just saying that you know they're everywhere, and lots of people are connected to them. But I'm talking about Zionists here, Zionist people. That was a movement, a modern movement that was developed at the end of the 18th century or 19th century, and basically it was a political movement that was designed as part of a global fraternity. It's something that can link to Freemasonry, and in fact, the Freemason movement has its roots in the Talmud. The higher Freemasonry in Rosicrucian
The Kabbalah
Freemasonry is linked to the Talmud, which is linked. The Talmud is a modern book that was written in the 11th century, and it's about it's a so-called collection of the vocal teachings of the Jewish thing. But of course, it's to do with the Khazars. It's to do with fake jewelry. They're not real Judaic people. But basically, Germany, the number 6 million was bandied around at the end of the 19th century, long before the Second World War. 6 million seems to be a number that keeps getting repeated through history. If you look for it, you can find it. And the simple fact is 6 million bodies is an awful lot of bodies to get rid of without the evidence to prove it. Exactly. You know, there's going to be some kind of evidence. Now, the various concentration camps, and I'm certainly not supporting concentration camps, the Nazi regime, or anything along those lines. You need coke, which is a type of coal, to run the crematoria. Basically they claim that they burnt them after gassing them. They claim they got rid of the bodies in crematoria. They burnt them. Now, 6 million bodies. It takes something like 20 kilograms of coke to get together the necessary heat to burn the bodies. Now, 6 million bodies means that you need 6 million times 20 kilograms of coke to do this.
And the
Now, the Germans at the time in their various concentration camps kept meticulous documents about how much materials were taken to and from the various concentration camps, just like all the military do, you know. And there is no way is there a record that will back up the necessary materials needed for this. Not only that, what many people don't understand, you can go to, I think it's the British Library or wherever they keep the archives for what was going on during the Second World War. MI6 were able to listen for 2 whole years without the German government realizing to all communications at the beginning of the Second World War. They have a record, they are archived records of all communications that the Germans were making using radio or telephones, because the British had the technology, they were able to listen to this. There were no records of mass killings. So that would mean 2 years out of the war, that would mean we're talking about the latter stages of the Second World War, that they started to try and get rid of the Jewish people. Now, I believe that there are records that will account for at least 300,000 Jewish people that died. And most of this was down to starvation, illnesses, and, you know, and I'm certainly not condoning what happened in the Second World War as far as the Nazi regime, or even what the British did, and firebombing, and Americans did to firebomb innocent German people, you know, because just because the nations are at war doesn't mean that the people support that war. And I can assure you, I didn't support the war that happened in Iraq, and, you know, 1 million people, civilians, died in Iraq. And I didn't support that, and I went on a demonstration with 2 million people in 2003 in March to say we didn't want a war, you know. And so when wars happen, doesn't mean that you can say, oh, it's a nation, that's all the people in that country, they're against us. That's not the truth. That's not the way it works. Wars are started by a few hundred people, You know, there are a few hundred people in politics, probably even less than that, probably a few score of people. And they decide you're going to war, and all the costs are going to be borne by the people of that country for many decades to come. And, you know, all the blood that's spilt is going to be in your name. Or, yeah, like, you know, it's crazy. The whole scenario of war is obviously, it's a passionate part of my life. Being an ex-soldier myself, I know about the debacle of war. I know it's all a con. It's all a lie. It's all for a greater agenda that most people never know about. And it's disgusting to me. It's repellent. You know, the idea that they can try and make people nationalistic and think it's a good idea to go to war. It's just absolutely disgusting. You know, it's just because there are computer games making young kids desensitized to people blood being spilled. You know, the reality of touching someone with hot blood coming out of their body is repulsive. It's absolutely disgusting. And, you know, it can't be trivialized. You know, it's a truly disgusting, unnatural thing. You know, I don't even believe that humans naturally are warlike. I think that has to be trained into humans. That's why soldiers have to go through a lot of training before they're ready just to automatically shoot, blow up, whatever they got to do. You know, that has to be trained into them in a very, very scientific manner, actually, that's very, very difficult to shake off. You know, it's a very, very it's a hard imprint into your psyche. The training is very, very
and they're starting with
effective.
this training right now with all those violent movies. When you grow up with violence, so you have that feeling in your brain. You know, all those video games also where you shoot down and you see the blood going out of the bodies and slashed people and whatever. I mean, they're training the next generation that they're ready for seeing blood and everything, because they see it in the movies, they play with it, you know. I mean, this is all so sick here, you know.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, of course, though, is that if soldiers do end up in a scenario where they're faced and confronted with that, they start to realise this isn't a game, and they will have many, many problems. And many soldiers commit suicide, and they go AWOL, and they have many, many social problems, and basically, quite often they will go through a period of waking up, of discovering that they're being used by ridiculously rich people for some other agenda, nothing at all to do with national security or some other reason that they're being sold that they need to be there. They do go through an awakening, and I'm thinking of America in particular, when they brought about the Patriot Act, which was actually written before 9/11 but released 3 months after 9/11, was supposed to be a reaction. One of the groups that they talk about as being a #1 domestic terrorist are veterans. Because basically many veterans, especially soldiers that have been to Iraq, I mean, these days, you know, like if you think about the long-term exposure to violence in Iraq and Afghanistan, and actually the number of places where there are soldiers in Africa, so many different countries, it's absolutely obscene. When they come back, when they get their dose of reality, and they realise that their governments have been using them, their friends possibly have died and have been sacrificed basically for the bankers and for this new world order system of tyranny that they want to bring about, they become very disenfranchised. They realise that their governments have been using them, and people have died needlessly they've been tricked. They've been lied. They're not doing it for the Constitution. In America, they have this wonderful thing called their Constitution, which basically is a Bill of Rights and their roadmap for freedom. But that's been eroded. It's been eroded for decades and decades. Slowly, incrementally, it's been pecked away at. It's been changed. Just the same as in Europe, where they brought in anti-terrorist laws and the criminal justice bill. They brought in various laws that basically slowly but surely remove all your freedoms. And a lot of soldiers, they wake up and realise they're a part of bringing that around. And they're not happy with it when they realise they've all been tricked, they've been lied, they've been manipulated, they've been thrust into illegal wars, they've been destroying people's lives. You know, they will clear a town, they will terrorize children and families, they will get them out at 4 o'clock in the middle of the night, the people are wetting themselves, they're in absolute terror, and these guys are facing up to the fact that, why am I doing this? What is the reason I am doing this? And I know people that lived in Iraq, as an example, through the 80s. And I had a girlfriend that lived there for 8 years. She's an English girl. She grew up there. Her father worked there as a civil engineer. And she told me categorically, without a doubt, they were safe to go wherever they wanted to. The people were lovely. They never felt in danger. Everything was wonderful. It was a wonderful place to live. So this demonization of Iraq as some place, a hotbed of terrorism and this terrible turmoil, it may have developed into that, but it's developed into that because they've used their same old tactics of divide and rule. They've separated the Sunni from the Shia. They've created antagonism between them. They've done their fake terrorist attacks on each other to heighten tensions between them. They've completely manipulated their country. The CIA have been there funding different terrorist groups to go in there, do something, blame it on other people. So now they've created turmoil between those people, which is tragic, realistically, because considering that the Muslim world is actually the last religion, the Islamic world, is the last religion to be attacked by the New World Order, because they've destroyed Christianity for all intents and purposes. They've destroyed the culture of the West so that the people have no backup. If you get into trouble, your family won't come. Your family's a tiny family now, it's all divorced, they don't even talk to each other. They ain't going to be there to help you out if you've got a problem, and you certainly aren't going to get all the people from your parish church come to help you out. But someone has a problem in the Islam world, and they still have their family networks. Their uncles still come for the meals like they used to in Mexico 20 years ago when you first went there and they met up on a Sunday. They still do that in the Islamic world. They still support one another. They still help them financially. They still help them emotionally. They have a problem, they help each other out. They have strong family units. And that is what the New World Order want to destroy. That is what Albert Pike, who was a Masonic leader, wrote about when he talked about the First World War, the Second World War, and he talked about the Third World War would be happening in the Middle East, which was why they wanted to set up Israel. It is a Freemasonic situation where they used the guilt of what happens. They created the persecution of the Jewish people so they could create. They had the Balfour Treaty in 1917 after they persuaded the British that yes, you could win the First World War. Germany had won the First World War to start with. They had submarines in the First World War, and they'd stopped all their ships, and they'd stopped all their supplies, and they were about to lose. But they said, no, don't worry, we'll save you. I mean, I'm rambling a bit, but basically, this is the whole world stage has been manipulated. It's been a long, drawn-out plan. But we're at a stage where we can decipher these long, drawn-out plans. Probably for the first time in history, we can share all this information. We can research this information. We can alert everyone so that they can research and confirm this information for themselves. For the first time in history, because of the internet, because we're all waking up, because we're all feeling the pain, we all know something's going on. And then as you start to find out the information, you can realise why you're feeling the pain, why you need to alert everyone, and really also understand that we can stop it. They've said it themselves. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who's a key player in the New World Order, he has admitted that people are waking up and they have the power to stop them. They are concerned. They know that people are waking up fast and the information is becoming so immediately available that, you know, within a few weeks, people can start to digest this information, research this information, verify it. Okay, they might have a lot of emotional situations to face. The process is, it does take a time, but you can find this information out and find out, you know. And as more people do, we've become a support network for each other to share this information and reinforce this information, and we've become a network that is becoming very quickly unstoppable for the New World Order. I mean, it's going to get to the stage where they're going to have to start charging down through hundreds of thousands of doors. That many people now are awake to what's really going on and becoming, more importantly, proactive. We're not stagnant anymore because we've started to realise we've got to put our lives on hold because now it's an important time. If you don't do anything, if you decide, oh, forget it, someone else is going to sort it out, you're going to get to this situation, this horrible situation where it's going to dawn on you it's too late. And you can't allow that to happen. You've got to realise that every moment counts and every bit of information you can share is important. It doesn't matter how small the seed is, as long as the seed goes in there and someone can start to recognise that they need to do something, then that's great. The job's done, you move on to the next one, and so on and so on. And we're not talking about just reaching one person, we're talking about doing everything you can. Imagine wearing a t-shirt that says something about 9/11 was an inside job, and you wear that around a market, right? You don't even have to say to people, oh yeah, World Trade Center 7 was a demolition job. You don't have to say a plane didn't hit that building, and that building was a government building with lots of departments within that building with sensitive information that the governments wanted to be destroyed. You don't have to say anything along that line. They see 9/11 was an inside job, and it goes into their mind. And they keep on hearing it time and time again, and sooner or later they'll be curious enough to go, World Trade Center 7, what was that? And the information is so obvious, it was an inside job. But you need a trigger. So you can reach lots of people quietly. They don't even have to talk to you, they can see it. And it's a subliminal message. This is what the New World Order do all the time. Subliminal messages or advertising. You know, so anyone can do something to assist us and just wear a t-shirt, or they can make some flyers up, or they can write on money. You can write on money. World Trade Center was the inside job. Chemtrails are toxic.
I have an idea
write anything on some
one
money.
t-shirt.
Money goes around.
You can put on the t-shirt just this, which activates your logic. Just put 2 planes, 3 building, and then research or whatever, 9/11. So something that the people say, it's 2 planes, 3 buildings, because many people not even knew or know that they fell down the World Trade Center 7. You know, they just saw the Twin Towers falling down, and they forgot about the third one. You know, I mean, you know it, I know it, and many people know it too, but not all the people. Just 2 planes, 3 buildings, and then they will say, huh? Where was the third building? You know, and when they investigate, then they really will see that it fell down in a controlled demolition, and no plane, no impact, and you see all those explosives in the windows. I mean, this is what we should do. So we don't have to talk, like you said, or the chemtrail t-shirts. Putting
It's quite exhausting,
tag and research chemtrails, Google chemtrails, whatever, and they was, what is that? Okay, let's see, what is that? I saw that. You remember that? And there's more people as we are wearing this. I saw it here in that market. I saw it in the street. Okay, now I will research it. It's everywhere, you know. I mean, we are all buying expensive T-shirts with Adidas and whatever brands, and they're so expensive. Look, I show you my T-shirt. This is the same one I use for my event, you know, with the Green Day event. It was even it was even free for me because a friend of mine gave it to me. He said, I like what you're doing, here it is. And I say, how much I owe you? He said, nothing, it's for you. And even if I would make it, it's so cheap. I mean, it's just printed on a I don't know what's the name of that kind of paper with an iron, and you put it on a t-shirt.
Prints,
Exactly. I mean, it's not much work, and everybody has a t-shirt, a blank one or a yellow one or whatever, and you just iron that, and that's it. I mean, that doesn't cost a fortune, you know. So I mean, this is a very good idea to spread the news, to use their technique, like they brainwash us, to show them at least the truth. We don't brainwash the people, but they can see what's happening, research, and then that helps to wake up the people. Yep.
Yeah, and I think also if people start to wake up
Mm-hmm.
and they start to resonate with different issues, whatever the issues might be, I think it's important to try to research all the information
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can absorb,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're in a position to explain the situation properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I found in my earlier days that I would have someone's attention for quite a while, and when I started to get to when I started to fall, it was often the excuse they needed to say, you don't know what you're talking about, it's rubbish, you know. And of course, conversely, there were many times I would talk to people and I'd overwhelm them and leave them totally deflated, and it was awful. It worked in a negative way. You know, you have to balance how much information you can share with people because it's
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming. You know, it is a journey of discovery. So I guess at the beginning you need to be able to master how much information you can share that's sufficient to get people to question that this is serious, and they need to know more. But at the same time, if you give them too much information, you can shut them down.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, I have seen that many times as
Yeah,
well.
me
But
too.
you know, at the end of the day, for each of us who are trying to share information, it's still a learning process. I learn every single day, and you know, it's a journey. We're
Mm-hmm.
we're on a journey of discovery. We're
Mm-hmm.
finding out the truth. We're learning ways to share that truth,
Mm-hmm.
and we're learning ways to become more effective.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I find, for me personally, I find it quite useful. I talk to the police whenever I can. You know, I'm not frightened of them. I have no fear of the establishment. If ever I get the opportunity, I will go to universities, or I will call up like the Civil Aviation Authority. I will go to Oxford University. You know, do whatever you can. I particularly like talking to the police, and it's a good point you raised about the third tower. Many of the police don't even know that three towers
Mm-hmm.
collapsed
Mm-hmm.
at free fall speed into their own footprint perfectly. You
Mm-hmm.
know, no steel frame building had ever collapsed due to fire
Mm-hmm.
until that day, and then three fell all at once.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the odds of that happening are statistically impossible.
Exactly.
Um, but you know, personally, what I want to say there is we shouldn't be frightened, or everyone deserves to be approached. You know, it doesn't matter where they are coming from. And in fact, I actually feel, as far as the police is concerned, I've been very fortunate. I've talked to a lot of police people, and I've had very good, positive experiences. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I find the police pretty decent people, really. Most of them are doing a job they believe that are helping the community. You know, which is, I respect that. That's fine. Occasionally, I guess I have seen a couple of coppers who, in the heat of the moment, might have been a bit heavy-handed, shall we say? You know, so I guess there's a little bit of bravado or bad behaviour. Even, you know, they're guilty of bad behaviour just like we are. But I would say the majority of police people I've encountered, they've all been pretty decent. And you know, I'll give you an example. Earlier, 2 months ago, I was in England, and I was at Bristol Airport, and I was handing out flyers about aerotoxic syndrome and about chemtrails. I had two flyers, one for flight crew and one for passengers. And I was hoping to just raise awareness as much as I could. And we were there for 45 minutes handing out flyers to lots of people. We had hundreds of flyers. And I noticed that we were actually upsetting people who were heading off on their holidays, because one of the statements in the flyers was that pilots had died, and I could see people reading these, and then when they hit that, their whole face was dropping. I was like, oh dear, we're ruining their holidays, we're ruining their trip, you know, whatever. So me and my friend, we decided, let's go to the car park and get people that have had their holidays or had their trip, and they're leaving and they're finding their cars and they're heading off. Because I just felt unhappy that I was ruining their holidays. You know, it's bad enough the truth, you know, but you can't ruin that holiday. They've saved all that. So we moved after 45 minutes to the car park area, and within about 2 minutes, airport security turned up, and they wanted to know what we were handing out, because in England the airports got privatised. They used to belong to the public, but about 15 years ago they privatised them, which is strange because it does coincide with the time they might have started chemtrailing. And basically, because they're privatised, they have their own bylaws, and it's illegal according to their bylaws, which is a fictitious law. But you know, if you're not willing to stand up for your rights, you basically have to adhere to those laws. It's illegal to hand out information that hasn't been authorised. So they wanted to take the flyers and take them to their manager, their boss, or whatever, and have a look at those. They wanted to know. And then so they took the information, disappeared, and within a minute, the police turned up. So the police, there were two policemen, and we talked with them. They asked us what we were doing. We started to explain what we were doing, and we talked to them for an hour and 20 minutes, both of them. They were asking various questions, and in the end, they shook our hands. They thanked us for what we were doing, and they said, look, you're giving us too much information. It's information overload. We need to stop now. They refused to arrest us. They allowed us to leave unhindered, and they were absolutely gobsmacked with the information. I can tell you, I know without a doubt, we reached two policemen there. They were really seriously, wholeheartedly shaking our hands and thanking us for what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say that they had a big awakening that afternoon.
Yeah.
They became aware of lots of information, and you could see the pennies dropping. You could see the cogs turning. You know, I don't mean to belittle them. They really took it on board as fact rather than theory, because we had sufficient information that they knew. They realised. They realised what we were doing.
Yeah, it made click in the head. It's like, yeah, it's like this. Yeah. I woke up also sheeple when was it, Friday? I got a visit here from a friend who gave me a solar panel. That one, because to check it out if that works. It's for recharging batteries of even of cars. And you know, I was preparing my event here, the Green Day and everything. I had my computer on with some images, and he asked me about what is that? What are you doing? You know, and I say, you know, did you ever heard about a chemtrail? I just checked the reaction of that guy, and he said, no, of course not. What is that? You know, and then I explained it to him. And I say, I wanted to change the subject. No, explain me more. You know, I mean, once you are interested in something, and this is what I also want to tell to the public who is watching this video, don't fear to talk about this. I mean, you have friends, you're sharing with your friends the top secrets of your private life. Even you're talking about what are you doing with your wife and with whom you're cheating or whatever, you know. Why not talk about real stuff, what is going on, what will affect your family later in other generations? Why don't you talk with those good friends? If you have those kind of good friends, why you don't try that to talk with them? You know, I mean, it took me a little while to wake up by myself, because I didn't know about chemtrails at all until I got more people, more friendships on Facebook, and I saw the first pictures. First, what I thought, they're just crazy. It's just a plane, you know. But then repeated. I saw another and another, and then I thought, okay, let's check that out, you know. And that is how you learn. Trust your friends, talk to your friends. If they say you're crazy, they are not your friends then, because if they don't explain you those things, then what can you expect of them? If you're in need of something, they not even won't help you. So I mean, choose your correct friends. Talk with your family, for example. I mean, many people have brothers and sisters and
fathers.
A lot of
people are frightened, though.
Yeah, they're frightened.
The problem is, Hans, is that a lot of people, they do listen.
Yeah.
And they do take it on board, especially if they are your friends or family. But I can assure you that some of my family don't speak to me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because they're too frightened to face reality.
Exactly.
Because it is frightening.
It hurts a while,
but it is a terrible reality. But you're right. You know, you can't be put off by the fact, you know, okay, my family don't speak to me very much, you know, okay, it's awful, but I know at some point in the future they'll come back to me and they'll say, okay, thank you for sticking it out, you know, you know, if a lot of people say, oh man, you know, forget about it, you know, save up for your holiday or whatever, you know, I know. I know that we make massive progress. In fact, my mother, she wasn't speaking to me for a while. She now tells me her friends are asking her about chemtrails. You know, it's worth persevering.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to be aware that some people are subjected and react to the programming. They're frightened.
Exactly.
You know, and you have to respect their fear. You know, you can try and help them, but you have to be gentle with them. You know, you have to be willing to step back and leave them to it for a while, come back later. Maybe they might have come round. You know, I've got brothers and sisters I don't speak to at the moment because it's too frightening for them. You know, they've got young families, they've got children. They don't want to know about these terrible things,
I know,
which is ridiculous, really, because actually we're doing it for them. You know, because you know, one day our lives will be over, and that's the way it goes. You know, but they're future generations. It's all about the future.
I just
you have to sort of,
I just remember there are some old movies where they're telling stories about ghosts and everything. I don't know what is the name, maybe Twilight Zone or something like that. You know, they're sitting on a fire, camping, and then someone is talking a story, a ghost story. I mean, this would be a nice party topic. Okay, now let's talk about something new. And okay, well, what is your topic? Okay, chemtrails. You know what a chemtrail is? And then no, and then okay, you know, it's something like kind of fun in the beginning that the people don't deny themselves at the first moment when they say no, don't tell me that, you know, just like, okay, let's talk a story. Let's talk about something. There are many tactics to reach to open the door, you know, because our minds are sometimes so closed that we don't want to listen anything bad because we are so brainwashed anyway, watching TV and all those violence and everything. But there are many things, or just sharing once in a while something in I mean, there are websites, not just sharing a picture, just sharing a website. Hey, have you seen that website yet? It's incredible. What do you think about it? Not telling you, believe in chemtrails, they're real. Just say, what is your opinion about this? You know, there's so many opportunities. And the other way also, because we know that the books are getting manipulated now, history is manipulated and false and everything. People who have still older family members, a grandfather or grandmother, like in your case, she told you what happened in the World War, whatever, because those people will die one day, and then you cannot find the real truth. And those people who lived those times, the past, ask people who are watching this video, ask your grandfather, hey, tell me about this. In my case, I missed it because I was bored. You know, my grandfather was telling me this, and I said, no, I don't want to know about it, you know, because I not even knew about what is going on right now. But now that we know what's happening, we have to use those people who are still alive to ask them, and also maybe write it down, because maybe just between us, normal people, awakened people, we can save this really history book or whatever that can survive the next generation. Because if we don't do it now, if we lose all the tracks of everything, next generation will just believe the bullshit they are getting taught in their generation, you know. That's what I can recommend now.
I agree. I think actually it's a tremendous burden we have, but the ultimate truth is it's up to us right now. I don't know how long we've got, but it's not long. This isn't about the next generation. This is about sorting this situation out right now.
Exactly.
You know,
may
do know
happen
that
in
they
10
have
years.
massive plans in place, like Horizon 2020 and Vision 2030. They got big plans to bring about the new world order. And when I look in Europe, I know about the United Nations Agenda 21 and the fact that they want to remove all property rights, and they want to move people to smart growth grids, these certain living zones, and they want to remove private transport. Now, in France, for example, they've got the toll road system, which basically cuts off transport. Once you're on a toll road, you can't get off. And they've got control points where you have to pay for point to point to point. But they're also building a high-speed train network between various city areas. And it's in full swing. You see them carving up these great big chunks of the countryside where they're building these high-speed trains. And I believe that they're doing this in other areas of Europe as well. It's not just France. And I get the distinct feeling that when these high-speed train networks are finished, they will have brought about massive change sufficiently that they can introduce the draconian United Nations Agenda 21 plan. They're already conditioning children in schools about sustainable development and being a global citizen and about the New World Order. They are doing this in the curriculum in schools. And I do know, I had a girlfriend that was a head teacher once at the school, and at that time, a few years ago now, they had a colleague who was going to America to a big conference about bringing in the academy system into the UK. Now, this is a system they use in America, and of course, this is a system they're going to use throughout Europe, throughout America, throughout the world. And this is about standardized education. And of course, how do you get through to making big changes in society? It's through the children. If you indoctrinate one generation, you disenfranchise them from the older generation, so that they don't know how to do the new way. They've decided you can do maths now, so your parents can't help you with your homework. Your parents become stupid, they become obsolete, become separate. They've got their iPhones, they've got their computer games, they've got their new ways of interacting that the older generation can't relate to. You've created a division. So really, we are at the precipice of huge change, where the younger generation are being coerced and conditioned, where they basically are very different in the way they think, in the way they operate, and what information they rely on. And we are the bridge. We're the bridge now between the younger generation and the older generation. And we have to not only convince the younger generation and our generation, but also the older generation who are also conditioned in their own way. So we are the bridge. This is our role right now. And we have to hold it together, and we have to unite those different generations, isn't it true? To bring them together so that together, united, we look at this very small dominant minority that is controlling all the corporations, controlling the governments, controlling education, controlling all the systems that we're now becoming dependent on. And we can turn around on them and say, no, we don't need your system, we don't want your system. In fact, we're going to hold your system to trial because you're criminal. You've been introducing toxins on a biological warfare level that no nation's ever been able to do before. We're exposed to incredible levels of biotech, GMO warfare that is sterilizing whole generations. We've got such incredible weaponized technology surrounding us that people just don't understand is a weapon. But we can expose it, and then you can start to understand, well, how can this happen to us? Who's responsible for this? Why would they do this to us? And then you can look into eugenics, you can look into transhumanism, you can look into the New World Order. You can start to understand that actually, yes, there's a small core group of dominant evil people that believe it's their right to basically domesticate human race whilst retaining their own natural qualities so that they can dominate us. They want to create a different human race that's subservient to this so-called elite, who are not elite. They're just criminals. They're just insane. They're just despots. They're so removed from reality We have to remember that the obscenely rich people get a different education system. They get indoctrinated from birth. You know, I kind of feel sorry for these people. They don't stand a chance. You know, they end up being maniacs, but maybe they might have started out to be quite reasonable. You know, if you'd have taken them away at birth, maybe they'd have been quite good people. I don't believe it's necessarily just they are completely psychopathic in their bloodlines. I think that's encouraged and nurtured. I'm not even sure about the argument for nature and nurture. These Illuminati families, these bloodlines, are they really so different, or are they just conditioned and nurtured to make sure? You know, it's taught from a very young age that there's something special and it's okay to dominate those other people because they're peasants. You know, this is what it is at the end of the day. We are peasants to them. We're subhuman. We're not acceptable. We're not their equals. Well, I got news for them. We are all equal. We are all sovereign divine beings. We're all created by God. Now, people don't like to talk about religion, and I'm an ex-Catholic, so I'm qualified to talk about religion. We are still all created. You know, we are equal. Why should one person be something different because they were born into the Rothschild family? You know, just because they got money, they got through deception, they got through trickery, they got through criminal behaviour. That doesn't make them superior to me. Far from it. If anything, you know, I'm the underdog, or we are the underdog. You know, we're fighting right from the bottom. Whereas they got all the privileges, they've had all the education, they've got all the money behind them. What makes them so special? They got it through deceiving people, through funding wars. But they go through very devious means and dark means, and that does not make them a better person because they were born into a family like that. Absolutely not. And you know, people need to realise we shouldn't idolise people with money. We shouldn't be reverent for people just because they got money. We shouldn't idolise footballers because they get 30 million a year or whatever it is, ridiculous amount of money, 100,000 a week, just because they can, you know, play football. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, that's all changed. You know, they use everything. They put celebrity above normal, decent behaviour. Which, you know, there's a fundamental flaw in that, isn't it? Because that's no example. Some footballers going out with some model one week, another model on next week, getting divorced, doing this, whatever. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. But these people are hailed as idols. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We can change all that. You know, we can change that. It's ridiculous. We just got to put everything in perspective. Start realising that life isn't what's projected on us. Life is what we make it. Life is the real life. Real life is what feels right, what our intuition tells us, not what our programming is telling us, not our conditioning. You know, people have to break away from that. And I tell you, I spent many years doing that. I conquered my own problems. We've all had problems in our lives. You know, we all go through processes of waking up, whether it's stopping smoking, whether it's eating bad food, whether it's stop taking drugs, whether it's stop abusing people in relationships. Whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter. We conquer it. Genuinely, right now, we have to look at the world and government and these problems as things we need to conquer. Exactly the same things. These are like taboos. These are like terrible addictions. Why should you give your right away? One vote and the government make a decision on everything that happens in your life. It's ridiculous. We should have referendums on all decisions. Why shouldn't it be on a Friday night? We meet up with a family, we have a few drinks, we have a chat or friends, and then we go and vote. We all vote every week on a decision that affects all of our lives. Why shouldn't it be this way? You know? Why does it have to be? You vote once for a 4-year period, and then you give your life away for the next 4 years to a few hundred people who make decisions that are already being made anyway by policies that have been deciphered and made by non-government organisations, by think tank organisations that are working for an agenda for the oligarchy, for these obscenely rich people. all of this is so contrived. People need to become aware that that is why we're in slavery, because we consent by being silent or by being inactive. We are giving away our power. What we're saying is, you can do whatever you like with my life. You know, you can make a new law that makes it very uncomfortable for me to go and travel on holiday now, because you've added a new tax to airport tax, or to surcharge tax, or a fuel tax, or a landing tax. Do you know, I went to New Zealand a couple of times, and in New Zealand they have departure tax. If you want to leave New Zealand, you've got your ticket, you've done everything, you've spunked your money on your trip, you think that's all right, I'm down at 0, but when I get home I'll be fine. And before you go, have you got your paid your departure tax? Like, what? Yeah, you have to leave. But yeah, it's like $25 you have to pay to leave the country, and that's crazy. How can you have a law that says you can be taxed to leave the country?
Yeah.
That's just insane.
Yeah. In Mexico City,
it's a small example.
yeah, in Mexico City you pay even the highway taxes. If you go from Mexico City to Acapulco and you use the nice highway, you pay certain times money. And imagine in the holiday season, so many thousands of people are paying and paying and paying, and transport of fruits or whatever who are using that kind of highways. Here we get even paid on the street. You know, I mean.
Well, that's the same in France. You have toll roads.
Yeah.
You have, and what the toll road network does, it's actually a private company. What they actually do is sometimes they second a public road because it's the best route, and then so if you don't want to use a toll road, which is an extensive network, which is expensive as well, you basically end up doing a massive detour that takes you so far out of your original journey that it almost seems it's worthwhile paying the money to go on a toll road, because it's quicker and cheaper on fuel than it is to be resolute and decide I'm not paying a toll, and you go zigzag, zigzag, zigzag all over the place, and it's cost you just as much in fuel and taking more time, you know, just to prove a point. So they basically created a monopoly on travel.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy. Of course, that's the idea, that they want to make it so expensive for travelling and so awkward for travelling, whether you're going by plane or whatever, that basically people don't want to travel anymore, and they look for entertainment and they look for activities in their local area, so that you start thinking city living is wonderful. City living is being promoted. You can have all the entertainments you could ever dream of. You go into the shopping centre and all the shops are exactly the same. Doesn't matter what city you go to. They've got chain stores.
Yeah.
So you go into a supermarket, into a shopping centre, everything's the same. Don't matter what city you go to. Why bother going travelling? You may as well just stay in the same city. You may as well be a smart city dweller.
Yeah.
And embrace United Nations Agenda 21, which is, you know, this is coercion, this is conditioning.
Yeah. Same happened in Mexico City. You go in those modern shopping centers, you think you're in Europe. They're just the same. I have friends, they have visited me from Europe just to see how is Mexico, having some vacation, some beers and whatever. And we went to there, and they said, "What? This is Mexico?" I saw they're all with those big hats and the tequila and everything. And they say, "You're more modern than we sometimes in those small villages in Germany, for example." And they see those kind of shopping centers, Walmarts over, and in every colony there's a Walmart. I mean, we are invaded from all those New World Order stuff, you know. And you, instead to listen mariachi music, I have luck because my neighbors are playing still Mexican music, but you go to other places, you'll hear just Lady Gaga and all those modern music, you know. I mean, I don't say it's bad music, I like to dance and everything, but I mean, this is all New World Order. Just watch the videos, what they are.
It's a monoculture.
Yeah.
It's a monoculture. That's
exactly
what we're trying to bring about. Yeah.
See,
I've got to. I'm gonna have to leave you.
okay, no.
I'll get back to you later if you want.
Incredible!
I've gotta
2
go.
hours, 38 minutes, and 42 seconds. Wow! There's no time limit. Don't worry. No, I thank you so much for your time. you were talking with me and with the world. I mean, I will upload this video immediately to YouTube. It's recorded anyway, so I mean, this is your house. In Mexico, we say my house is your house, mi casa es tu casa. Whenever.
Tu casa, mi casa.
Exactamente, exactly. Yeah. So whenever there's another meeting, if you make one day one and you need people to join, invite me. When I have one, I will invite you anyway, because we have to be united on this. I mean, I would like to have one with Russ Tanner and all those famous people which are just famous on Facebook, you know, but we have to be together, that people really see, wow, look at that bunch of people here, you know, and then we can also find each other, because many people of your groups, they don't not even know me. Now maybe they will know me because of my chemtrail video, which will survive me, I think. So
Yeah,
because
that would have made you famous, I think.
exactly, no, that
That's
video
such
survives
great work.
me.
You managed to do that. I really hope that inspires the aviation industry to start speaking out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I don't want to steal more of your time. Thanks so much for joining, and yeah, I don't know what time you have in your country right now. Here it's almost 3 p.m.
It's 21:51.
Okay, enjoy the rest of Sunday, and yeah, see us later. Well, no,
Yeah,
see
we'll
you.
talk again soon.
See you soon. Exactly, on
Yeah,
Facebook
please
anyway.
let me know when you upload this to YouTube. Please let me know, and I'll post it on my channel as well.
Of course, yeah, I send you the link immediately when I have it, and I share, because sharing is caring. Okay, thanks, Max. Nice to meet you,
Okay,
and
take care.
have a great day. Peace.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Peace for all.
Yep. Okay, I will save that video now to YouTube.